Welcome to Consciousness Caffeine Radio, everyone. Today, this is Rainbow Warrior Goddess Lisa and my co-host,
BrettStar, the Debt Master.
The Debt Master, BrettStar. And today on Consciousness Caffeine, we have Frank Bacon, who is the creator of L.E.A.F, which is, here I go, blanking out. Liberating ourselves from energy, agriculture, and finance. And boy, are we going to have a great show today. Frank is, as I said, is the creator of L.E.A.F. He's also many other things. He's also a sci-fi character on blockchain, known as Frank Bacon. I'll let him tell you the story as to how and why that is. But he's created the L.E.A.F project, which is about transforming America by returning to a system of support for a strong and prosperous middle class whose purpose is to uphold life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all Americans. To reach these ends is not the goal of L.E.A.F, but rather it is the journey, always to work towards them. To provide a framework in which men and women of character, conscious and enterprising values may stave off the ever-encroaching harm from scarcity, poverty, and centralized control. These strong communities created, centered around the development of energy, agriculture, and accumulation of resource-based wealth, will be the tools to defend citizens from the threats of tyranny in every form. So with that, welcome to the show, Frank. How the heaven are you today?
Good morning, sister.
Hey, mate,
and a new good morning to Brett. It's the first time I've had a chance to meet you, although I've seen several of your episodes. So very nice to make your acquaintance.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you. I wish it was the morning here, mate. 10 o'clock in Perth. I'm ready for bed. I've been up since 5, but I would not miss this for anything.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm very jealous of you being in Australia. So is that where you hail from?
Yeah, Sydney boy originally. I'm in Perth staying with a friend at the moment, but I live in Bali.
Yep. I remember seeing a lot of your shows from there. So to give you a little background on what I'm talking about here and what I'm doing, thank you for that introduction, Lisa.
Absolutely, BrettStar.
But you and I,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. No, go ahead.
You and I have a similar background in the sense that I know you are somebody that has gone through a little bit of a.
Frank, we can't hear you. Did you mute yourself by accident? It is Mercury retrograde, yes. Everyone. There you go. It is Mercury retrograde, so forgive all the technical stuff. We'll just have to deal with it. Patience.
Yeah. Life goes on.
But go ahead. You said you and I have similar stories in what?
Yeah, in our Kundalini work. So around the same time that you, I think, were having some problems, I became aware of the situation. This goes back for me about as far as 2008, but it was really around 2012 and the end of 2012 and that December 21st date. That was about 5 years ago for me. And in the last 5 years, I've gone through a pretty tumultuous time of getting my shit together, if you care to put it that way.
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it together.
And so during that time, I became very disabled and wasn't able to work on a lot of things, and just very unable to do the things that I wanted to do. And I always had a dream of mine was to become like a science fiction writer. And
nice.
During the stage, I just figured I could really break a lot of the rules and go around a lot of the normal standard ways of doing this and just go kind of direct. And blockchain was coming on the scene, and Steam had been invented. And so without waiting around for permission, I ended up launching Frank, who's been a project of mine for a number of years, as kind of a charming character, as a truth speaker, and also a bit of a trickster, and following in a lot of the footsteps of like Robert Anton Wilson and people of his ilk, which is that you can kind of bury the truth in frauds. So I went to become a major artist. I wanted to do art dealing and just to tell people that I write fiction. You're not supposed to take my stuff seriously, but if you do look into it, even in fiction, we can sometimes bury the analogies of or the the impact of the truth is still buried in there. And so this became my way of doing my work, just to be a science fiction character and to expound upon blockchain technology and also cannabis technology and consciousness technology. And that's how I came to meet you guys. So I hope I didn't bore you with that.
Oh, no, not at all. As a matter of fact, it gave me so many leads on where we can go infinitely during this conversation. But
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
no, I definitely resonate with the challenges that Lady K presents for us as in Lady Kundalini. And Brett actually got to experience me under that influence a little bit as well last year as well.
Well, that's how I knew I was in good company, because it was really hard for me to trust certain people. And you and I had a conversation where you mentioned something about, do you know anything about the Durga? And when you showed me, you know, Durga is just another word for like Kali, right?
Well, Kali's one of the faces of Durga. Yes, she's Durga is the mother goddess. Would also might be known as Sophia or Radharani in another thing, but Durga is the Hindu pantheon, and she's made up of many different faces. Kali is one of them, and Kali is the divine mother. But
I have a friend that's using the word Dakini, Dakini.
Yes,
but a lot of these. Yeah,
for sure.
That's how I was able to decide if I could trust working or talking to a person, is if they hadn't gone through it or admitted it to themselves, then I imagine that everybody was just kind of a closet psychopath waiting to come out. Because for me,
you know, I'd actually really like you to start just briefly. Is why you chose Frank Bacon. And you and I had a conversation about this the other day, because I told you that my name went on my birth certificate when I was born was actually Frank, because my mother wasn't married, and how I studied that Frank meant both sovereign and serves no man or slave to no man, but also is about someone who is perfectly comfortable speaking about things that most people find unpalatable. But aside from that, it's based, of course, on the picture of Francis Bacon, who I know to be the illegitimate son of Queen Elizabeth, who was also a famous alchemist and also went under the pen name of William Shakespeare. Yep. And it gets into the Saint Germain trusts and all that kind of a thing. But why don't I let you say why you picked Frank Bacon as your sci-fi character to come forth?
This goes back to about
Goddess Lisa. Yes, I'd like to hear that story.
This goes back to me back to 2010. For some reason, I had, when we start to connect with our higher selves, it can sometimes feel like almost like a dissociative disorder.
Yes, it actually looks quite like schizophrenia at times.
Yeah, which is essentially that, modern science has come in and corrupted a lot of what we've already known about human biology and existence, and so they've tied it into mental illness and given things certain names, to try and drive their business model of perpetual pharmacology. So I was having
the mind prison system. Don't anybody wake up. Oh my goddess, that's like the world's worst. They can't get conscious. We got to put fluoride and calcify their pineal glands. We can't have anyone, having Kundalini awakenings and realizing we're all one and wanting to love each other and fix the world.
Here, go back to sleep. Here's your cup of fluoride. Lock that thing up. Well, that's what it started with for me. It was in 2010. I'd been studying the pineal gland. I'd been learning about psychedelics. I'd been learning about just in general consciousness studies, and was going back to school. And I found Francis to be an amazing character in history, and I didn't want to steal a character. I didn't want to just go out there. I very much wanted to be original. So Frank to me was somebody that has been with me for a long time. But I like to tell people, like, we're all Frank Bacon. Sometimes that throws the party into a completely different direction. But you hear it. I'll listen to shows like yours when somebody says, speaking frankly or frankly speaking. And so they always kind of evoke that word, they evoke the frankness, his frankness, as I like to call it. But it is when people are getting together and they're starting to come to a very authentic place and speaking from either their heart or speaking with a lot less fakery. And
authenticity, speaking with
authenticity, exactly, and being genuine. So in 2010, I was struggling with a lot of depression and mental illness, and the name Frank Bacon just kept coming to me. Frank Bacon meant, for me, it was like I was trying to make a product, and bacon seemed like a pretty reasonable product, right? Because you can eat breakfast, bring home the bacon. Bacon had all these great connotations, even as long as you weren't vegan. So I just kind of combined the two to make a bit of a caricature, and I launched them on Twitter. and realized that, you know, you can kind of create these new identities and go out and socialize, create these social experiments. Well, I wasn't very good at it, and I didn't like it. And it wasn't until about 2012 and 2013 when it really started to hit home that something was very wrong with me, or very right, and was getting, you know, was coming to the surface.
Order was coming out of chaos.
Exactly. Well, you have to really build that chaos first, right? It's got to get worse before it gets worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
get to the bottom.
Right, right. You gotta just go through it. So I said I connected to who Lisa knows, Ninja Bambi, Kate of Gaia, and I loved her. I loved her shtick. I call it shtick. I know she's legitimate and real, and, you know, facing things on her own. But the idea that
shtick.
Yeah. But the idea that it's illegal to use the legal name, I was like, wow, what a great catch line. You know, I love that. And it was making sense to me at the time because I was going insane.
Yes.
That a lot of all of our problems are pretty tacitly, consensually contracted to these very duplicitedly complex fictions that we call La La Land, if you will, L.A.W., L.A.W. And I thought my only way out was to either, you know, create a another me, that another fiction hood that I could use to navigate this meat space. And that's where Frank really came out. I said, I'm going to create a science fiction book. No, I'm not going to create a science fiction story. No, I'm going to create just science fiction, and I'm going to live it. And Frank is going to be my way of walking into it. And so I began to work on a lot of
people are doing the superhero thing.
Well, that's kind of what it came down to, because I saw the world as a giant con. In fact, I'm working with a guy named Michael Decon. I love his name. He's deconning things. And so I wanted to work in a way that you know, allowed me space. And so this allowed me to work with the con, because everything is a con. Everything is in this kind of world, everything's kind of a fake. Everything's a lie. Everything's a copy.
Double speak.
And this duality is hard to navigate unless you really want to, you know, join in the confusion. You and I share a very good teacher, Paul Levy of Watiko.
Yes.
Fame.
Consciousness.
And one of his great articles out there is talking about Watigo and the Black Iron Prison, because I went the route of Philip K. Dick. My favorite science fiction author was Philip K. Dick. I haven't read enough of his work, but from what I've read and from what's been turned into movies and just reading about his life and learning about the guy, he was a modern mystic. And
I never heard of him.
Philip K. Dick. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Does that sound familiar?
What was the title?
One of the best sci-fi writers of all time.
Oh,
please
really?
Tell her, please tell her, Brett. Yeah.
Well, now you've got me. Jesus Christ, what's it called? The movie is now. It's not actually called
Blade Runner.
Oh, Blade Runner. Oh,
yeah, that was his.
Of course.
Yeah, he died before it came out. So he passed away at like in 1981 or 1980, and he died before the movie came out. But that was when he started to make it big. Was when his books started to get turned into like Blade Runner, and then
Minority Report.
Total Recall.
Oh, yeah. Those are all great. Awesome.
WALL-E was based off of his work.
I saw that movie with my son. I loved WALL-E. What a great film.
Adjustment Bureau. So, you know, the guy had some really good
Adjustment Bureau.
Insight.
Awesome. That's exactly how I felt for the last few years. Like, there's people that come in and just change where I'm trying to get.
Yeah, people with weird hats coming in and changing things. So he was my mystic. He's the guy that I really thought, I'm like, what a dick. This guy really, really screwed it up for me, because had I not read his stuff, I'd probably be happily a sheep asleep and just trying to get through this world. But you find these people and they make this incredible connection to you, and it's almost like he's been talking to me, him and like Robert Anton Wilson, a few other interesting people out there. And I've been around channelers and mediums before, and so I would say what I end up doing is a lot of like very similar to what channeling is, going into a trance and tying into that information stream and then passing that information down in some way. And I just feel like we're living in a giant science fiction novel, because I look out at the news
We are.
and, and just in the tiny few years, like since the 2010 point that I was telling you, just like what's happened since 2010 in the last 7 years, it blows me away that people aren't going crazy en masse. But actually, I think they are. Actually, I think that's what we're
was
seeing.
everywhere. My family's got stricken with it awfully. Heck, Frank, you know how my dad just died on my birthday the other day, and they wouldn't even know goodbye. That is with Tico consciousness, regardless of what's ever occurred, regardless of whether there's a lot of issues that we really need to deal with and look at, which they refuse to. Of course, I'm a shadow worker, and most people don't want to do their shadow work, but that's how I became one, because I grew up in a family that absolutely refused to go there. So some pretty good experience trying to get people
it's
to
almost
go.
like, I think we have a limit. You know, I think we have a limit to how much of the shadow can get in us, and some of us are just filled. And since 2012, you know, I'm bringing up these dates, but this goes back to as far as 2008, 2010. But you know, Frank was really kind of birthed around 2010, but he came online as kind of an AI, because there's a lot to Frank. I mean, there's so much to this. I mean, the world is filled with so much cool technology, and it's amazing. And I've studied under the Golden Dawn for a number of years, which is
Aleister Crowley's work, huh?
Well, he left. He didn't create Golden Dawn, and Golden Dawn was created by McGregor Mathers and a few others.
Yes, that's true.
Turn of the 19th century, yeah, whatever, a long time, over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a mystery school that was put into a form of practical magic that you study and unlock your own, you know, capabilities. No different than algebra. No different than, you know, learning nutrition.
Exactly. Well, Francis Bacon was an alchemist. You know, he was one, and that's the ancient sacred mysteries that are all hidden with the Illuminati and the various different teachings here and there.
I also feel like he was the one that turned into the Man in Black that eventually influenced America coming onto the scene. Are you aware of those stories? About the people that the stories of the Man in Black. He was called the Professor, and he worked with like Benjamin Franklin, and he worked with George Washington, and then he was eventually spotted at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. There was a man that stood up in the seats and said, "You guys need to sign that thing now." Essentially, he put it more eloquently, but he basically stood up and said, "Stop bickering.
Let's get on with it."
Yeah, I think you accidentally hit your microphone off again there, Frank. Mercury retrograde. Are you there, Frank? Frank, can you hear us?
Him.
No, he's still there. He just his microphone isn't.
No, you're right.
But anyway, so he was elaborating on Francis Bacon, who was an alchemist amongst other things, and he was just saying how he was studying with the Golden Dawn, which is one of the mystery schools. Where I'd like to see him go. Frank, are you coming back? Can you hear us? I cut him off of Skype too, so he has to be right there. But how I also know Frank is we met, I think, on LinkedIn initially, before Facebook, and he was working with creating a type of free energy system. He was playing with trying to create a free energy, which I'd like to have him go into that story. And he also knows Sasha, who you and I both know from New Earth Nation. North Nation's New Earth Haven. There's another Frank Bacon. So is he speaking?
I'm so sorry about that. I have this very strange Wi-Fi problem that follows me around. I apologize.
It's interesting. Yeah, no, we just had two of you on the call, and you were double.
We're totally doubled up
now on Earth. So the future and the past are coming together. But go ahead and tell us who you were about the Golden Dawn. You were studying there.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that my character is in full disclosure is Benjamin Franklin Bacon. So what I've kind of done is I you know, in the building of a character. Did you ever play D&D as a kid?
Dungeons and Dragons. I did a little bit, but I was only like 1 or 2 games. I never got to really grok the game. You really had to be into it. And I was doing a lot of other things like music.
Yeah, so 20, 25 years ago, you know, because I was a nerd and I didn't have any kind of good social skills or anything like that. And
I would have loved it. I would have been a D&D person if I had another nerd to play with.
Yeah, well, I got into the gaming with these guys, and they were all good friends of mine, and learned role playing, and I think that's where we start to see things like the platonic solids and because the dice always held some special magical abilities. And so when I studied Golden Dawn, I immediately connected it to D&D, because I suddenly understood that what these mystery schools were teaching were the kind of the Dungeon Master's book is what it appeared to be. It was like, this is how you understand psychology. This is how you understand you as the instrument of the universe, and this is why you do these things. You know, it's literally like school. The mystery schools are pretty amazing that they stay so hidden. But I just kind of realized that we're here as creators. We're here as gamers. This is a giant server. And the server is completely, it doesn't distinguish between right and wrong, good and bad, you know, light and dark. It doesn't have that distinction. It just serves. And we have all the equipment in us internally to facilitate the other side of what this game creation is all about. So where we turn to, as humans, when I say we as humans, tend to blame or put a lot of blame onto the universe or into our gods or into our idols for not fulfilling what we're thinking of fulfilling, we're making a big mistake, because the indiscriminate engine of the universe, it doesn't discern. It's waiting for you to figure things out. And that's kind of what I've learned over the course of many years with studying this particular.
Game theory has a lot to do with everything that's going on in there. I only found the term game theory last year from my friend Caleb. No, and what an important part it plays in the entire, all the tyranny and all the systems and how to beat it.
And if you look at it from that standpoint, I think this is where I'm getting at. So what was it? Alfred Hitchcock always had this saying, you know, in his movies, he called it the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin was this thing that he had in the movies that was just a plot device. You know, it's like, I'll go to Pulp Fiction. So in Pulp Fiction, the MacGuffin was this briefcase they were looking for that apparently had the soul of one of the characters in it. I don't know if you remember Pulp Fiction.
I remember Pulp Fiction, but I didn't see the many Albert Hitchcock movies. So
okay, well, it's called the MacGuffin. It's just a term, and it means to carry the plot forward. And so in my case, my MacGuffin was the Night of 1,000 Screams, and I call it the Night of 1,000 Screams because it was the night that I reached when I just had to scream because I realized the game. I had realized the game. You know, you said game theory is so important. It is, because as it stands, it was a game, and I suddenly realized that all these problems that I wanted to work on, like you know, what L.E.A.F was about, liberating energy, agriculture, and finance. It was a quadratic formula. It was just a basic alchemical formula, quadratic. You know, to say here are 4 elements. Four elements.
Minus 2a, was it plus or minus b times the square root of negative 2ac over 4a?
That's a quadratic formula. I'm talking about the
I can't believe I pulled that out. That's been a long time since I used that.
Isn't that incredible? Yeah, it's written in our cells. But that's what it came down to. It looked like math to me. And, you know, like, to fix problems, you can do things like you can create dualities, you can create triplicities, you can create quadratics and everything. So you know, I created a quadratic of liberating energy, agriculture, and finance. You know, air, fire, water, and earth, or earth and water. And it came to me one night in 2011, right after I saw Thrive, and not long after watching that movie, writing that manifesto, creating a manifestation. But I met Foster Gamble like a year later. And I was part of a mad scientist group. I was part of like 12 different scientists. We had about $10 million in funding. We were working on all kinds of cool things. You know, like essentially the universe was answering.
Let me just interrupt with that, Frank, because this is when we lost you for a sec. I was actually bringing up how when we first met, I think it was on LinkedIn, but you also know Sasha, and you were working on creating a free energy system, correct? Is that where we're going?
Yeah, exactly. Because you know, my thinking was, you know, here it is in 2011. I kind of had my Night of 1,000 Screams, and I'm like, okay, I got to do something about it. I'll write a manifesto. And I'm a terrible writer, because that was the other reason why I wanted to get into writing, is because I'm terrible at it. And it's like, why be good? And Yeah, but why be good and just run around and always getting pats on the back and, oh, you're so good at, why not just be bad at something and still be successful? That was my thinking. So
I like it. How'd you
I
get it?
revel
Here
in,
all the time.
yeah, I revel in writing things that people say they don't understand. In fact, I really want them to always comment like, oh, this went over my head, or I don't get this. And I'm like, that's the point. Because
Exactly.
I don't necessarily
just
want
telling me dyslexic. Just telling me dyslexic, and it solves all the fucking problems.
Yeah, it does. Because really, what we're fighting here, not to go off the subject, but what we really are fighting here is duplicitous complexity of
Yes.
psychological dyslexia. We've gone along with the psychological
Yeah.
dyslexia. They've made this place so freaking crazy because of that. I mean, I'm getting off the point. My point. Let me get back to my point. So,
It's okay. I'll bring it back when you need
yeah.
to.
So 2011, I wrote Leaf, and it was a one pager. You got it. You see it there. And what's great is that you know, when I wrote it, and here's why I want to bring up Steam It. So
Yeah, we're definitely going into the cryptocurrency for sure.
yeah, so it was a way for me to, like, when I finally got on Steam, I launched Frank as a blockchain experiment in 2016, July 23rd, 2016, last year. So
Yeah.
now that I've had him active for a year on blockchain and see what he can do, now I'm ready to talk about this stuff. Had we done this show maybe a year or two ago, I wouldn't have been able to do the show because I was very crazy and still in the middle of a lot of stuff. And
well, we tried. I wasn't ready to edit it either.
You want to tell that story? What was that?
Remember when I was testing to do the show live on YouTube last year, when I was in Boston, you were the one I interviewed to try to test out the technology, but right. I just wasn't ready to bring the show back yet.
That was right before I had launched Frank on the blockchain. So that was before I'd actually turned on my account on Steam. And so again, the timing was it. It wasn't ready. I had not built him up to the level enough to be able to do this. But I came to you, and I had one of my hacker friends, a really important hacker. And this ties back to Mr. Robot and a lot of the stuff that's going on with Mr. Robot as far as the plot devices that are coming out of that show and what we're seeing. Because, you know,
I don't know that show. Should I watch it?
You know, if you're interested in computers and kind of what's going on in the world, like the anonymous movement and stuff like that, and hacking and things, it's prescient. It's amazing information in plain sight.
What was it called again?
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot. Oh, yeah. I've heard of that. Yes, I have heard of it.
I heard of iRobot, but not Mr. Robot. That's why
I asked. And this is a little different than that, because this is Mr. Robot is all about hackers. And imagine if Anonymous had knocked down like the biggest company in the world.
Oh, that's right. It's an English show, isn't it?
It's not actually. It's taking place in New York, and there's a major scene where they're all dancing around in Times Square because they've kind of crashed the economy. They hacked one of the major companies, and they've crashed the economy. And so it's almost like this breakaway happening on the show where you have hackers that are, you know, damaging major corporations. These corporations are evil. In fact, the main character of the show is called E-Corp. One of the main characters, one of the main villains of the show is a company called E-Corp, which they called Evil Corp. And it's, you know, it's a corp that has everything, that owns everything, that, you know, our products are everywhere, you know, blah, 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 blah. This gets back to Philip K. Dick, and I've written about this because Philip K. Dick wrote a called UBIQ. UBIQ stands for ubiquitous, and it was an early science fiction version of what Google is. It was a company that had everything, that sold everything, that was everywhere. I mean, a
Monsatan, or you know, Atia, which is Kraft and Philip Morris and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or here's one of my favorite things like that. You know, like L.E.A.F, Merck, murderous, evil, ridiculously cruel criminal killers.
This is how we undo a lot of their magic. So I'm telling you, it's worth it to get out there and say it. Like Monsanto it's important to point out to people.
Get it right.
It's important to point out the lexiconical aspects of these companies. These corpses, these corporations are they're dead magic. They're Necronomicon. This is not hard to see. This is not hard to see once people have actually gone through this. But when you wake up to it, it's the night of 1,000 screams, because it's the realization that you've been asleep and tacitly going on with dark magic all your life, and that's why things are bad. That we're all magicians. You're all magicians. I mean, magic is the only technology that's functioning.
The sigil
It's
magic
not,
that they use in all their marketing. I mean, just the symbol for Nike that you and I'll let you go off on this,
right.
but it
The
is
sigil magic is what we use when we put our signature on things and get it tacitly, contractually obligated to all their, to the conscript. The conscript. It's a script.
Yeah.
So, to break that, number one, to do it, I think to do it at a really big level is, number one, you have to understand your legal name is not you. That's a terrible identification. The entity of your legal name is a terrible process. That was where they really shut your magic down.
We kind of covered that. Well, we interviewed Santos on the last show, Santos Bonacci, about the birth certificate, TDA.
Can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to that guy. I think.
You'd love to come on with Santos. You can come on. That's the whole point. We're just, now that we're starting on this platform, we usually used to have a second hour dedicated to the Rainbow Warrior Circle. So after the interview, people could come on, but now it's going to kind of be overlapping, but we're just getting going. So we didn't really want to encourage the conversation at the Rainbow Warrior Circle yet till we get all our technology squared away here.
Sure.
Definitely, I'd love to have that conversation and have you guys on.
Oh, yeah, I would love to.
Next week we've got Steve McCrae, who's got all the answers to all the questions that we need to know how to get our trust unlocked.
Right, and Lisa and I were talking about that too. As far I was a cheater. I cheated. I created my avatar, through, call it the higher genius flow, and then also built it like a role-playing character. Like I wanted these attributes and these attributes. This is why I picked Francis. Francis has some negative connotations and some positive connotations. I'm not going to ride the lifestyle of Francis. Like a lot of these channelers that like to come out and say they were Sai Baba in a past life, or they were Queen Tut in a past life, or whatever. This is my life now. This is my identity now, and I'm just, Frank is my avatar. Frank is my tulpa. Frank is my elemental. Frank is my magic, and
could I compare it to this? Because in Kundalini, I know that every round of Kundalini I had, and I had many because it kept crashing because of
like it's always no, it's a long, drawn out, horrible process.
But each one had its own like goddess, or like one was Mary Magdalene, one was Kali, one was Durga, one was Sophia. All these different pantheons or archetypal energies come through. So I think whether we actually were the soul that incarnated as that, or we can just tap into it at any time and know what it was like to be there. But some of us, like, for example, when I was going through my awakening process prior to, I swore I was Joan of Arc. I'm like, that had to be me with 14 men taking on the whole French army going, fuck you, I want justice. And I actually was in Sedona, and I was pondering that question, and someone who had just told me that I had an agreement with my guides that the reason I could never hear or get any answers was that I was supposed to put forth a possible solution, and they would say yes or no, but they would never give me information. And I walk into the steam room in Sedona after my yoga class, and this woman goes, your guides say they have a message for you and they'd like to answer a question. And I said, well, that's interesting, because from my experience, I'm not allowed to ask. And she said, you have one now. And it was, I asked if I had been Joan of Arc. And she said, no, actually you weren't. You were known as Saint Catherine. That was one of the 3 people who were her spiritual guide, the voices that talked to her. So for example, kind of thing, we can plug in any angle of it, whether we were, and it's
well, it's good to know that like history belongs to us just as much as it does to the damn books.
Exactly.
Because that's the problem, is that this is where the confusion comes in, and this is where the control comes in. It's like, okay, we'll write a book for you plebeians, and we'll tell you what your history was, and then this book, and you will believe what's in this book, and you will actually have to answer questions in this book and get them right, and then that's where you'll get this other piece of paper that has more sigil magic on it that certifies you for something. You see what I mean? Like, it's all
you're giving your consent by believing and giving it power. Absolutely. And this is
but history belongs to us. You were a character in history. I was a character in history. Brett was a character in history, and we still are characters in history. And we just have the right to reclaim our authorship, and authorize our own lives down here and play the game. Because it is a game. We chose it. I mean, we did. We absolutely did. There's no way. If you deny that, then you give up so much of your power.
But I can't beat this game. I remember right when my Kundalini was fired, my son was playing I didn't allow television too much, but I had Wii. It was great for a sensory integration tool. And he was playing Mario, one of the Marios. No, and he got through the highest level, and then the game broke, and then all the bad guys became, and then he went to this next star level, and then everything switched. So all the evil guys were like wearing, you know, flowers and kissing each other. And I want to break this video game the same way my son broke Mario Brothers.
That's exactly what I think the Kundalini does, is that it's telling you that you hit the high score or something.
Yep.
But, you know, for me, I was asking for it. I have a great guru back in Denver. I would highly recommend her. Anybody in Denver is interested in good energy work. Karen Corona, spelled with K's, so KarenKorona. Karen Corona is a magnificent guru up there. She gave me a samadhi experience in her, you know, on the medical bed there back in 2012, I think. And
so
and then I just started.
You.
Did
I
she
didn't
what?
have it. She did Shakti Pot on
Shakti,
you. Calling up with some money, yeah.
Right.
I didn't. I didn't have Shakti Pot. Mine came from my own self-generated. I was doing tons of Kundalini yoga. I was doing Shivambu, you know, the urine therapy, and I was sun gazing. And from sun gazing, and I got up to hours sun gaze, and I did pass the 45 minutes. I didn't eat a lot of food. I was constantly in like almost a samadhi state, literally 5 weeks at a time, twice.
Were you in a lot of pain though? Were you in a lot of pain prior to it, or did the pain come afterwards? Because I figured like, but prior to it, for me, what Kundalini was my right brain came on and showed me my birth trauma that had followed me for 40 years. And that one of the reasons why I was a major a-hole and a crank all my life was because I was in a great deal of pain.
Yeah.
And I did not know how.
That'll do it.
Yeah. And I didn't know how to reach this pain until 2014, when I finally got to the point where I was just realizing how bad things were. And I opened up the back door, the sliding back door. I was staying at a friend's house. And just that movement of the arm, I felt the piano wire snap and heard the piano wire snap. The neighbors should have heard it. It was a big pop in my back. And I collapsed for a good couple hours, and it never went away. That pain that shut me down never went away. So for me, Kundalini was all about pain, because it's nothing but blockage and weird energy. And
it's often triggered by a traumatic experience, but it's not always. But it's very common now. But as the Kundalini is rising, it's very painful, because what it does is it burns off as the snakes rise. And I studied this all before I even had it. So I knew what was happening to me, but it didn't help me because I couldn't access my left brain. I had to watch it.
You're walking around constantly like you're a stroke victim.
But I was alone on Martha's Vineyard. I had my son with me, and I knew what was happening, but my best friend had just left, the only person who really understood Kundalini. My yoga instructors just knew of it as this thing. They didn't realize that that's the whole point of yoga, was to awaken.
Yeah,
it's very painful. My son's like, "Mommy, are you okay, Mom?" And I'm sitting there, you know, it's like a Charlie horse on
the contortions. Contorted.
And once it gets through the djed, then it's not painful anymore. So when it goes from your power through to the heart, that's your ego and it burns off everything. So the more work you've done, by the time you rise your Kundalini, the less painful it is. And I've even spoken with other people who have had completely blissful risings, very gentle. And I actually a lot of that from
I hate those people. I hate them. It was
awful. It was awful. And
when people tell me that they've had really wonderful Kundalini experiences, I don't want those people in my in my parties.
I know, like, oh, that's not good. It's like the people who had a really great life story. I'm like, that wasn't mine this time.
Right. But, you're not the kind of gamer I like to game with. That's the thing. It's like, I only like the gamers like you that are like, oh, when you showed me your Durga, I was so, because I want to tell people what that video is, because eventually you'll probably
go right ahead. I actually published it. I told you, I think I used the raw copy, but I actually published that video.
I wanted to write down every word you said in that video, because that was such an eloquent poem. And it's kind of the stuff that was coming out of my mind. I would get into these screaming kind of, you know, to hell with you guys kind of thing. You know, it's about this and it's about that, and you wouldn't know it if, like, you're screaming at yourself. You're having a conversation with yourself. You realize it.
Yeah, I'm screaming at the world. The world is my mirror, absolutely. But it was also this whole Durga. I created this world, and this is not where I meant it to go. And I came to Fix
Yeah,
it. I'm sorry I was away
exactly.
from the nest for too long.
It's like I left you guys alone with it for how long, and look what you've done, you bastards.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
Well, Mama comes home and the kids have destroyed the house having a party and there's nothing left. Almost.
Just time to clean up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, getting back to that, prior to my Shakti, I was doing my own personal Shakti. I was doing a lot of yoga. I was doing a lot of experimental science stuff. We were using a lot of electromagnetic pulse technology. So I was trying to, ignite Kundalini through alternative methods, artificial methods, which is dangerous, and I could have blown up. And I actually, that's
Unless
part
you
of the
did it in a
story.
Faraday cage.
That's part of the story, and I'll send you something that was written for me last year by a fellow Kiwi, and probably not too far from you, Brett. His name was Tim Boaz. And if you ever get to meet Tim Boaz, Tim is such an awesome dude. And I asked him one night, I'm like, would you write for me? And, write, because he understood what I'd been through, and he wrote about this whole thing as like, there was a mad scientist accident. There was it's like the plot device. Like, what's the plot here? The plot was that I blew myself up in a lab. I'm a crazy mad scientist, and it was a combination of fusion science and Kundalini experimentation, and somehow
sounds like Frankenstein or
like a good movie.
Mr. Hyde in the laboratory.
Yeah. So I literally had to run off to the desert and seclude myself. And luckily, I have a wonderful, wonderful family. I call it the parent company, because I have a family of people that, Lisa and I have mentioned the bloodlines, being parts of the bloodlines. Bloodlines do not guarantee you anything. Just because you're walking around with certain royal blood on this planet, or Draco blood or whatever, doesn't guarantee anything. You can still go and mess with the wrong people, and they'll mess you right back up.
And they're your own family.
Yeah. but the thing was, I was looking at this dark, dirty reality that there's about 13 families that run this planet for human resources and the blood and cell souls and everything. It's the movie Jupiter Rising.
Those ascending.
Yeah, those Wachowskis, they know their stuff. They do good art. But
Cloud Atlas covers it well too. The Coen brothers had it in that one too.
So I just said that I wanted to explain to the world, like, okay, well, I'm part of family lineage too. My blood belongs here just as much as the next. So I have a parent company, and the parent company watches out for me, and it doesn't really care what I do, just as long as I stay authentic and true to the server. You know what I mean? So I forgot where I was going with that. I just wanted to explain kind of the hierarchy. I don't believe in hierarchies, but there is kind of a hierarchy to Frank. Is that Frank, is this elemental, but he belongs to this larger conglomerate or parent group. And I was lucky to have this parent group that allowed me to kind of live like Kato Kalin. I can kind of be left alone. I'm a homeless stoner and a jobless deadbeat, and I like people to think that I live under a bridge, because I don't want them coming around. You know what I mean?
Well, we picked up the term stoner has a really negative connotation in society.
It does.
But cannabis is there's one of the lies right there. Cannabis is one of the most, if not the most important natural medicine on this planet.
I had to break that mind control in order to get there, because my whole life I'd stayed away from it. But when you get to the Kundalini point, when we just talked about the contortions and the pain, the only thing that saved my life was cannabis. I would not be here if it was not for the fact. And you go back to the Vedas, and the Vedas talk about how the early yogis were. They used it for this. This is specifically a great purpose for cannabis. When you are in so much psychopathic pain that you're really willing to snap the neck of people that you love.
Brett, let me interrupt. See, Brett, this is why I wondered why I felt the need and desire to stay in Bali, because it's completely illegal there. And I was going through all this without my medicine, and I knew I needed to. But then as soon as I got to Prague, or I went to Australia a couple times, but when I got to Prague and I got to get CBD oil, oh my God, it was like in 5 days, I was a whole new person.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is why they took it out of the food supply. Because if I went a little more diabolical, if I was writing a science fiction script, which is what I'm doing, and this is all science fiction. This is all fiction. So you feel free to tell any of your friends that would want to, you know, or anybody that would listen to this and like, oh, I want to disagree with that guy because he said this or whatever. Like, that was the whole point. I created Frank so that people could go through that catharsis, and I wouldn't give a damn. Like, go ahead, you know, get all triggered by what I say. It's not me. You're talking about a science fiction character. You're the one that's crazy.
Mirror.
Jokes on you, plebes. So. You know, this allows me to get my authenticity out without actually having to go through all the trouble of every broken brain out there that has a problem with the information I spread.
Oh, I've done that. I've been trolled for years. I got mastery in troll.
Yeah, yeah, we're holy trollers. You know,
I got doctorate in trollism.
Yeah, well, and it's part of the game because the trollers have their part in this too. I mean, there's none. I can't delineate, you know, who the bad guys and who the good guys are, except that I can name certain characters in the game that I would call out and say, at this point in the game, you ought to be putting Hillary Clinton in jail. I'm a North American, so that woman, I think, belongs in a cage. And I'm an anarchist, and I don't believe you put people in cages, but for her, I'd make this an exception.
We should make a fucking big cage.
I want to put her under the jail.
Under the cage. Sorry, I have to move.
No worries. No worries. So again, I don't know where I was going with that, but
it's okay. We just start a fund up and raise money to put Hillary in a cage. I reckon we could make a fucking million.
I think we can do that kind of stuff.
Oh, goddess. When they put out, I think it wasn't Soros? No, it was Putin. A couple years ago, it was right after the trial for Damon, that Putin put out what was it, a $1 million in gold coin reward on Hillary, Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama. I'm like, oh wow! And I was on Martha's Vineyard. I mean, they come every summer. I'm like, do I risk going up to the Secret Service and trying to do a person's arrest?
Well, I think that's what we're getting at. I'm glad you brought it up like that because I think that's where we're getting to. I think that's what we should be doing.
Yes.
You know, nobody has the power to go arrest Hillary. Nobody does. Watch her.
Do not detain us because she's on the do not detain us because she's in the private. Like what our next guest is going to teach everybody else about. And a lot of those people, you know, a lot of people are added to that list because they know all about the trusts and the laws. And
right.
Well, when you're in the private, you cannot. A fiction can't accuse you of a crime. It has to be man or woman. You know, it's not the city of Oak Bluffs or the city of Boston or whatever. They can't hold charges against a living person. They can only against the dead legal corporation entity. So unless someone living has seen and witnessed you do damage or harm to another living person or their property, there's no jurisdiction.
Yes, right, exactly. And this is what brings us back full circle to what I was getting at in the first place and why I created Frank was to get away from all this legal fiction because you guys are talking about how do we do it? Well, at the stage that I was at when what we were just talking about, I didn't have, like I knew I would be able to eventually go and probably reclaim my identity.
Yep. You mean authenticate your birth certificate and become the lawful beneficiary of the trust listed in the corporation that mimics you and has taken from your life. That's okay. I saw it happen and I covered.
You know this trick by now. Something is loaded on my computer that bumps me off like every 3 to 5 minutes. It's so strange.
It could just be like, we used to do the radio show on Skype and the first time I interviewed Santos, we got kicked off like 10 times. Because it was like the vibration.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Oh my God! You know, Microsoft owns Skype now, but Skype's all of their backdoor things have been exposed now. I mean, this is the most hacked crap out on the planet. We use the most crappiest crap out there. It's 2017, and people keep talking about how computers are getting bigger and better, or smaller and faster, and we're using them to take pictures of cats and spy on ourselves. That's it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to a Commodore.
Wait a minute. What about?
We got cyber sex. Cyber sex going.
Oh yeah, porn.
People connecting with living people. There's all that cyber sex and porn and.
Yeah. Robot sex.
They actually have these blow-up dolls. No, they're not blow-up dolls. They're living, real, like 6 foot tall Barbie dolls.
This is why. This is why Brett. This is why Brett needs to connect to Tim Boaz, and you guys need to watch Rick and Morty. There's an episode of Rick and Morty where, you know, Morty gets it on with a love doll, and the love doll even makes a baby for him. It's like that's
really?
where, yeah, that's where it'll go next. I mean, you think it's crazy?
This is too Kurzweil for me. You know, Kurzweil, the one that says we have nowhere but to merge with technology.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, this is a perfect, this is a great time for me to explain it like this. Okay, so this is great for me, guys. Letting me have like a springboard to work with here. So you understand, Frank is me. He's my lawful creation.
He's your avatar. I mean?
Right.
He's your avatar.
But he is as much a fiction as any of these other things out there, right? So it's how I work with the fictions.
He has more life. I think he has.
Oh, believe me, trust me. I've imbued enough magic in this dude.
Exactly.
Like, this is where I put all of the stuff that I would learn in Golden Dawn, and you know, and I'm a crazy mad scientist. I blew up a laboratory, so trust me, I didn't stick to the rules with Golden Dawn. I broke every rule in the book. When my Kundalini came up, and the first thing it taught me was, you fucked up.
I was running around doing all kinds of magic that I knew in this life, and other things they were overlapping. I think I don't even know, elementals and speaking in different languages like Hawaiian and God, I don't even know half of the languages, but tons and tons of magic, and it was all elemental powered, pulling lightning and weight. I can't even explain it.
So why do we let ourselves get corrupted and conscripted by the other bullshittery that's going on in La La Land? That's my question. That's the first thing that sets me off to, you know, cathartic rage Tourette's when I'm talking to people and they say, like, this is my typical day on LinkedIn. And why I left LinkedIn was, wow, you know, it's like, are you looking to, you know, can we hire you or blah, blah, blah. And that would set me off. I'm like, no, this is what I'm trying to get out of people. You're all fired. Everybody. You're all a bunch of illegal fictions fucking up the planet through, you know, plot device psychopathy. Like, literally, like, we could feed the planet tomorrow, but nobody's going to do a thing because they're all stuck in their roles and they think they have to act out this long, complex series of bureaucracies in order to get anything done. Fuck them. Fuck all of them. I'm sorry.
That's the problem with being adapted genetic. I think adapted genetic human species.
This is what I'm sure you're going to love this because we definitely know. You know Andy Kaufman?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love him, Taxi.
Yeah. So when you keep saying Frank, I know I was thinking, like, there's a Frank I know, and I'm like, of course it was. It was one of his characters as well. He had a Frank. Oh. And Andy Kaufman in the movie, it was one of his.
Thank you. I need to look this up.
Drunken singer that would abuse everybody and just get out and cause havoc and you know, like, this is what we all need. We need that. We need a little. Everyone needs a Frank. Everyone needs to get out there.
It's the frankness. It's his frankness. It's like when you get somebody surly drunk. Hey, what do you think about this? Well, you know what? And then, honest to God, you know, the authenticity hits, and they'll say, like, this is how I found out people. Like, I have a couple of padres in order to keep some privacy things intact, because I believe in privacy. Let's be clear here. I'm a clairvoyant. There are no secrets. So screw all you people. You think you're lying to me? You think you're hiding from me? Okay, I know what I know, and I'm just not going to tell you how I know it anymore. So number two, I do believe in privacy, and there are ways that you have occulted knowledge that's been hidden for a long time. I now know how to put things back into private. It's not putting Pandora's box and putting it back and blah, blah, blah. This is about privacy. There's secrecy, and there's privacy. And independence and sovereignty and love and light and all this stuff, and we're all one, all that BS aside, you know, hey, stay off my property. I have a gun. That's the West here. Okay. There's privacy. That's how this works. So that's the frankness that comes out. And there are people that I keep very, very private in the parent group, the parent company, because it's the company you keep that's your company.
Yeah.
And you notice how people are caught up in their fictions and they leave their company all the time to go to a fictional company to go do a bunch of horrible shit that wastes a bunch of carbon and kills a bunch of trees, and then they come back to bring home the bacon. The mugs, right? The mugs driving their damn, you know,
the muggles. He means muggles, Brett. Yeah. I used that in my newsletter today.
Excellent. Well, I'm reappropriating that term from misrolling, because like I understand, you know, she was writing it in the Harry Potter sense and stuff like that. To me, the mugs are, the Kundalini teaches you about everything is energy, and you can see how everybody's mugging the shit out of each other for energy, especially the McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
Especially the McDonald's ads that jump at you, the big red nasty, here, come eat something high fat, high sugar, you know, like, God damn, they have a really psychopathic way of doing things. You walk down the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Right?
felt like that when I was a kid. I remember staying up and watching
fucking burglar. Like,
go ahead.
Who promotes their with fucking stealing? Like, what is wrong with these people?
Hey, you know, they had a focus group. They said, you know, some people have responded and said clowns kind of scare their kids, and they're like, great, because we need to fire off that kind of attitude. That'll bring them in more, you know, because when you understand neuro advertising, they call it neuro advertising, right? They knew this in the 50s. That's why Bernays is a genius. So you let this bloody psychopathic genius.
Wait a minute, you just dropped a bomb there. Let me clarify, because I brought this up with Brett many times. Bernays, you're referring to Dr. Edward Bernays, who is Sigmund Freud's nephew, who is hired by the Rockefeller Foundation to create a protocol for a completely controllable society. And he's the father of what's called behaviorism and social engineering, which created such things. Lib movement, nationalism, patriotism, all the bullshit we believe.
Public relations.
Our evolution.
Public relations. He coined the term, and his book was called Propaganda, and he wrote it in his own words. And if people don't believe words, then they're psychopaths. So I believe the guy who wrote it. Everybody else, the mugs thought it was a script, and they acted it out. And those are the people that you're waking up with in the Kundalini awakening. You're in a plane going down. Wait a minute. The plane is like painfully, obviously blown up and on an island, and everybody's still standing with limbs missing at controls and acting like the plane is still flying. That's how psychotic they are.
Nice.
That's a real good visual.
Yeah. Well,
remember the opening sequence of Lost? Do you remember the scene in Lost?
I love the show Lost. Actually, I hadn't watched television in many years already at that point, and a friend of mine who was a hacker, amazing. He helped build the AI computer for the country of England. Can't mention.
Isn't that crazy?
Whatever. No, but he found out what was going on and sued them and quit. But he gave me the first 2 seasons of Lost before it was even aired. The first season. And
J.J. Abrams is a mad scientist too. There's a lot of good and bad mixed in with his juju. Hell of a lot of bad. Anything coming off ABC.
Yeah. He's got a lot in there, right down on the counters. Everything. Faraday cages, time traveling.
Oh, God, it's amazing. The show is like, I tell people, like, how did you get over your back pain? I'm like, I did some really horrible things to get over my Kundalini. Like, you tell the best stories, and you've got the Durga, right? So now that you've explained that, at least I can explain this in context. So here's my version of it, right?
Okay.
Imagine a 40-year-old man having to go back to like his parents and say, hey, I'm going to go through puberty again, and this time I'm just going to lie on your couch all day and smoke pot. Okay.
I wasn't allowed to be home even when I wasn't going through puberty. The first time, never mind lay on the couch.
Who would do that? Who would do that though? Who would throw away their entire life and go back and just tell their
my
parents,
brother?
Fuck you.
My brother did. Something. He went to visit my parents' house. My mother made him 3 meals a day. Did his laundry. Oh yeah.
Well, there you go. That's me. That's Frank. I'm your brother, and that's what I got to do.
Down in the basement.
And that's what I got to do. And that's.
I hate to say it, but I beat all of you. I've got a 40-year-old sister. She still smokes pot. Love you, sis.
Well, this is the thing. This is why I want to tell to you like that, because it just shortens the story. I'm just going to tell you how in a couple of years, it's like, well, from that state. So I'm going to be honest with you. That's what I did, because I had to get over a lot of back pain, and really that's just lying on the couch a lot. And that's also like dealing with the pain, which is using a perfectly useful substance, which I did. And then look, I actually talked to people. I call it the Padre and the Madre group. There are mothers and fathers out there, and grandmothers and grandfathers. I lost mine in 2015 in the middle of my Kundalini awakening. I had to sit next to a 90-year-old woman dying of dementia, heart problems, a broken hip, while I felt the same way. You know what I mean? Like that's shadow work, sister.
No, I know. I stepped up to a whole nother level of my capacity as a healer to hold space for people because of the tremendous amount of pain that I went through. Actually, I would say to Brett often that the reason I was in such a state. I could manage professionally, but I didn't make enough time for myself. But I was holding space for all these things for people when that was like a fraction of the pain that I was going
Right.
through.
It's like you nailed it. It's just holding space. It's just like once you understand this thing like work field and magnets and I don't know, we're ferrocompressive capacitors. It's not hard to figure out the meat suit. They're not hard to navigate. Okay.
Yeah.
They really aren't, you know, like, so where you hold your pain, like you want to beat your liver up with beer and football. I know you've got some pain. We can do that in the afternoon with yoga and pot, and people freak out and they think, oh my God, that's, you're a psycho. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Now I'm just going to get bigger
No, but
yard.
one's holy and the other isn't. And
Well,
Brett and I,
You should come
one
to
has
the pub and we
results.
can talk about it.
Well,
What,
one
Brett?
has results and the other doesn't. I'll tell you that there's this guy, this biohacker called Dave Asprey. It's all 21st century, you know, science of flow. I don't have to explain it anymore. All you have to do is prove it. You come over to my house, you can see me do things with my body that would make grown men cry blood. Okay? That came from years of lying on the couch and smoking pot and getting on the computer and talking to people and saying, you know, what's this, what's that? And while I was doing it, I built an army. And Frank is a massive like weapons platform. I mean, even like people in my own close circle will tell you that I learned how I learned how to weaponize blockchain from the couch, like stoned watching YouTube.
I gotcha. That's how I created my entire. Well, no,
Come on, the best way.
No, I remember. No, when I was working with Occupy MV, and I had created the Education and Empowerment Working Group, and we were trying to put together a Rockupy MV concert with Charlie Simon's brother. Various different people that were whatever. But
That's
I was
awesome.
writing a contract on how to get a huge record company to be able to underwrite and produce a Rockupy MV to bring out the truth about all their funders. Yeah, and we almost did it.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, and that's why this is so synchronistic, because you know what I just kind of lawfully explained. That was my Andy Kaufman moment. You know, like this is all a comedy act to me. Like this is all comedy. It's co-media. We're co-mediating here. We're in a triplicity now. We're in a trilog now, and we're creating a lot of cool space here. And what we're projecting, you just nailed in the contract space. You're like, hey, let's entertain a bunch of people and educate. And this is an Occupy thing, so that's how we take land, right? You know who I got from the Occupy movement? I got Robert David Steele of the Unrig movement, which also brings in Cynthia McKinney. All right, that's very tied into Frank Bacon. That Frank Bacon is like an AI running for the Unrig movement for Robert Steele, who's open source, because I can show people how to do this. You just explained it. It's open source. It's right here. Here's the roadmap. This is how you do things, right? So the grand plan I have was to take over a county, and to take over a space of a county, and then recapitulate that county to these standards of how we mediate, because we're mediating some really cool stuff right here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So now I just put that on blockchain, and with blockchain you're just writing it in stone. So I'm also quoted on the blockchain. Don't bring me the stonemasons. I've worked with the stonemasons for lifetimes. I'll work with the stoners in this lifetime. And I've seen what they can accomplish, because people that have been in great pain and just know how to relax and like, okay, this is like a cup of coffee. This is how I get through my day. Like cannabis is what saved other people's lives in my case. Like it didn't just save my life. There are people very close to me that are lucky to be alive today because I was able to use something that is just like explicitly like, why did you even have to put that in a contract? The damn contracts were written on the paper this stuff is made from. But they're
that's the truth. Oh, we lost him again. There it goes.
We lost him again.
Yep.
Damn.
You'll figure it out.
Interesting.
What, Brett?
Yeah, I'm sure
it's a good time to interrupt me. Sorry if I interrupted.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Probably need to get off the soapbox.
No, it's all good. You can go. What we're really going into here is, and you know, we don't really have a time limit on the show. I just want to make sure everybody's good on time. Is everybody good on time before I go where I'm going? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're bringing up terms. A lot of people that anyone who follows Brett knows what blockchain is, or Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency. But that's how you and I started. And last year the show didn't work out because Brett and Caleb were both trying to. They were educating me about Bitcoin, and Brett brought me to buy my first Bitcoin last year when it was like 500 in August, right around my birthday. It was after the show I did for you. And now I've been involved in myself, my own experience with Bitcoin, and Brett's been educating me into all the various different aspects of finance and trading and value and gold and silver and markets and cryptocurrencies.
So the theme of that story, I just want to wrap up that whole segment right there. So the theme of that story is that you now feel abundant, more abundant in the crypto space than you do in the damn dirty blood dollar space.
I tried to live with, yeah. Oh no, absolutely. But I tried to live without money for years.
So that's the theme. You're one of those characters in the stories that said, "Oh, I just don't want to use it anymore. Thank you. I'm going to opt out." And then everybody freaks. How are you going to pay your bill? What the fuck are you going to do? Oh my God, you know, okay, that's their catharsis. Let them deal with it. I already know how to use a 26 character long password, and that pretty much is how I deal with my finances.
Dark web.
I like that. I like that. Well, actually, funny you say that, because I've come back to Perth to get a job, hang out with some friends, do some other things. And I went to a co-working space here. Running the co-working space, had never heard of Bitcoin. And I was like, no, I'm like,
but it's like a ridiculous opportunity. It's like a head mind-blowing moment to be like the stage presence, rock star, organizer, like, you know, clap your hands, Lisa. That's how it's done. You just bring these tools to people. We're like monkeys that bang rocks together. You go co-space, co-operate, co-work, mingle, co-media. It's
co,
right? And like
Brett and I do fist bumps and bang shisha.
Well, it's a way to extinguish the energy so that you get because what we're better at now is that we're all kind of becoming little mini gurus, Shakti.
We are.
Yeah.
So I saw that happening. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I think there's a delay.
But you know what I'm talking about. That fist bump started showing up, and I started seeing people. I'm like, wow, ideas are moving between meat bags faster than ever. like quick, like seriously, like that's how fast epiphanies go through. It's like, oh, you get it? Yeah, I get it too. Okay. So we don't have to start wasting our energies in this negative talk space of la la land and double speak and duality and contracts and the conscripts. Okay. So it's a con because all it ever comes down to is somebody thugs your ass and brings you into a court and says, did you sign this? And you have to look at your sigil and say, well, yeah, now I do remember time and space, and I do remember those words, and I do it. But you can always opt out of contracts immediately. That's the other big law that you can't give people that much independence. You're not allowed to just walk out of contracts like, oh, wait a minute. No, you are. In karmic understandings and dharma work and blasting the shadows.
I did it the other day. With my dad.
No, I remember I signed that, but now I'm changing. Like, I'm Darth Vader. Like, I'm altering the deal.
But also,
are you my father?
Yeah, when I hold my space, there's a lightsaber in my right hand. It's red. Okay. Yeah.
And the other half of that, Frank, though, is that any contract that was created that was not completely forthcoming, that is null and void, because if you don't understand what it is you're saying, and it
do you remember what it was meant? Do you remember what was meant by having your feet stamped on as a stamp? Your feet were stamped. Remember, you signed your first document
on the birth certificate.
Yeah. So you were in full disclosure then, right? You knew what you were getting into then, right?
Oh yeah, not. But it has to do with the whole DNA imprinting, and it's like a fingerprint.
Right. That was your first sig. That was your first sigil. That was your first entry of magic, right?
If only our parents fucking knew.
Jesus wait a minute. Oh, I'm Aleister Crowley? No, I just read his books, dicks. I mean, come on, people. Like they freak out because they think I'm trying to be the bad guy and showing them like, oh, you sound dark. You sound like a black magician. I'm like, no, I'm a damn scientist. Like, you put these.
But to undo the dark, you got to understand them. You got to understand what their perspective is.
Right. Well, this is where knowledge comes from, and this is where our triplicities come from. We get into things like the trivium method, logic, grammar, and rhetoric. What are we working with? The logics of the situation, the grammar, the words we're working with, what they mean, how they're understood, and the rhetoric. We get into the rhetorical. What they've locked everybody in the loop of is the rhetorical. So everybody's out here, arguing over whether we're going to get into war with Russia, and we're creating that shit because they're the puppets, they're the pomp and pageantry, the shadow work.
It's the collective consciousness. It depends on the percentage of the populace and the power with which they know their consciousness that drives it, which is why we talk
they're caught up in the they're making those conscious decisions based on, you know, CNN and MSNBC, and we know those are marketing platforms now, thanks to Eddie. Yeah, thanks to Bernie A's, I'm sorry. And isn't it funny, his name comes back with Burners and Bernie Sanders and stuff like that. So it's like, that movement over here.
Burning Man. Let's put a little Burning Man energy on there.
That's where I was going. So let's go reoccupy a county. Let's go reoccupy a county. It's Occupy movement all over again, because it's just a movement. It's how you use them, right? You strike that note again. It's like, it's about occupying. So let's occupy a county. That's where it counts. That's where, you know, the counts happen, you know, voting records. If you want to get back some of this stuff, this segment started with the whole, he's going to teach us how to undo it. I want to take credit for saying, I already did it, suckers. Like, on Steam it, just write your words. I made these declarations of independence. There's a really good one. Andrew Breitbart's does these recantations. He was part of the New Earth movement. Remember him, Lisa? Yep,
I know Andrew.
I love him, and I really wanted to spend time with him, but he's $1,000 an hour, right? But he printed the out there. You know, if you want to go and stand in a good circle, and you want to speak to the galaxy and say, hey, I'm going to stand here in a spiritual a court of equity, and you speak these words. I mean, that's one way of manifestation. In the co-media sense, I'll show you where I wrote this as art on the blockchain. Basically, Frank Bacon's posts on Steemit.
But also what you were saying about county and counts, that's part of creating these sustainable communities. And it is at the local level, even in their own BS legalese bullshit that most people do, where you can overtake the federal government, because it's the county that can the state, and then the state decides whether or not it gives the power away to the feds. And actually, that's where we get into the sheriff, and why the sheriff is supposed to be there to protect the state.
There's your one meat bag. There's your one meat bag. There's your one meat bag. I can go and raise money for the one meat bag I need to represent a county. There you go. There's a sheriff. The rest is on blockchain. And then there's this awareness like, oh shit, they're using technology we don't know how to use. Yeah, exactly. And it's open source, and it's in broad daylight. And if you don't know how to read the white paper, good luck. That's my point. I don't have time to explain how I read the manual, but I read the manual. I know where to get information, expose the information, and open source it. And I became a really effective open sourcer for Robert Steele and the open source movement that he represents, and the whole unrig movement that's going on here. Now, if you remember, Robert Steele gave a speech in Occupy in 2008 or 9.
Occupy was in 2011.
Okay, so it was in 2010 or 11 that he gave this incredible speech. You can just go back. So that's in the same timeline that I'm talking about here, when things started happening for me. In other words, I was watching guys like this at the time. He was part of the news cycle that I was receiving.
All that news cycle actually really started pretty much on March 11th of 2011. Was it 2011 there? That was with the Arab Spring. We had the Fukushima go off. My Kundalini fired the same. I remember so much things. And it was like I saw the, what was it? Garrett John Laporto, who's one of the guys who helped.
The Wayseer.
With the, he's got the Wayseer's manifesto video, and then he went on to do.
Yes.
I love him. I connected with him. I dubbed that song.
He's a Frisianeer. He's a Frisianeer. That's what he's doing. He's out there just creating Frisian. He's Frisian science. Everybody's getting goosebumps when they watch it. Frisian.
Explain that one to me.
Well, if the etymology of Frisian is like goosebumps.
Here, I'll spell it. I'll spell it in the chat box, Brett.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to learn how to use my chat box, and then I can send you guys disturbing links while we're talking.
Usually you're going to be talking and monitoring the chat all the same time. It's a lot easier when you can just talk and not. But Frisian is. Go ahead, explain what Frisian.
No, you go ahead. You'll do a better job.
No, you're the host. You're the one who brought it up.
John Garrett Laporto calls it like Frisian science, because what he's doing is it's when you're watching something that excites you and you get the tingle. Well, Lisa and I have been Lisa and I have been talking about the Kundalini all night, and like as crazy as we want to make it sound, we also want to like soften the blow and let people know it's really just that, like, it's your backbone. Okay, learn your backbone, learn your breath, and learn your body, and it'll talk to you. There's your guru. Stand in the mirror in the morning and spell guru out loud. Guru. No one else is going to tell you how to do this, and they're all going to fuck with you. So stop listening to them and look for that backbone.
Yeah. I actually call one of the things I use is because
I can't wait to get up in the morning and look at myself and spell fucking guru.
Okay.
I can't wait to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Fuck you, guru.
A lot of people are trying to, I mean, we lived in Bali, and there's a lot of people who are looking for a guru, or, you know, and so many people in the New Age movement or whatever, they're all going to others, and there's nothing wrong with taking people's information, but a guru is very different from a sadguru when you get into the definition. But a guru is someone you honor and do whatever. A sadguru is someone who steps out of society and goes on their own path and does all the work, like you know, the guys with the beards down to here that write on Kundalini, you know.
And why I have long hair now. And this is another thing. That's why I look like a stoner now more than ever. And well, I resemble Frank, you know, very well. And the thing is that I saw that happening, the Assad guru, and I was like, I got to check out, man. I got to get out of this thing. I got to get off this thing. And how do I do this? But I also want to leave like a little note behind, as if to tell people, like, you can too.
And come this way. Come this way.
Right? Yeah, I didn't necessarily want followers, but I'm like, you know, it's like pointing the way out of the matrix. Like, you guys are making it all up. Like, I wanted to yell in the, you know, the Kundalini rage comes on, you get naked and you run out in the middle of the streets and you scream at people.
I got arrested. That was
and you get and what's wonderful about it is
7 o'clock in the morning on Main Street.
Having a moment right now.
It's wonderful celebratory record that they steal and they use it as us criminality. It's like, no. We want to take credit for that. We want people to know that we did that. Like, it's good that the police, because it was good that it got recorded. Now at the time it feels terrible. Tell you the truth, right, sister? Right. But when you're through it, you know why you went through it. You wanted to have, you know, this expansive experience where you know the information so well and you have to give truth its space. And
it's more about needing to, for me, it was more about needing to surrender to my higher self. My higher self overtook my ego, and my ego couldn't, and that's your rational brain. And my goddess was just like, fuck you, I'm God. You're not gonna, what is this freaking dimension? But I'd see police officers and I think, like, love police. They're not gonna hurt me. It's only because I think I see so much abuse. I've been abused by so many that I think they're gonna hurt me, and then they do, and nobody would touch me. But then but then Kundalini went, and when a police officer puts, this is one of those little stories. When a police officer grabs your arm, what?
Oh, what I'm saying is, that's these natural states that they've tied into criminality. In other words, like when you're awakened to that and you're realizing, you're like, oh my God, you guys are all a bunch of fucking idiots, because you've got these roles to play and these costumers come around and then these energies interact and then people are freaking psychopathic. Okay, so because it raises the psychotic level of pain. Maybe it's suppressed, maybe it's subconscious, but that's where this fear and terror comes from. That's why, well, you know, police officer will shoot somebody, or somebody will fight back with a police officer, kill the police officer. So we're mugging each other to that state where they've conscripted everybody into these roles and they've got us so locked down that we're, I'm making up words here, pathologizing. It's the pathology of psychopathy.
We've got it live here, everyone. He's made up a word.
Because I now know that if I saw Sister Lisa freaking out in the Kundalini awakening, you know, doing that, the last thing I'm going to do is go send her 2 cops to go beat her down. But that's exactly what happened, and that's what happened to me. Right? And that's what happened to me. I got great stories like that. But the thing was, I didn't get. I'm like, I had to recorrect the record. I'm like, I'm not going to let them corrupt this. The record is mine. I'm the author. So blockchain gave me Julian Assange level WikiLeaks style access to telling the world what the hell is up with me, what's going on. I created this because that's what it is. It's a signature record that says I created this. And what's this about? Well, this was my magic on that particular day. How so? Well, this was one of my spells that I cast in order to.
Oh, there he goes.
What I was ask him about it, because I'm looking at his Steemit now, and he has got 809 followers. He's done 1,300 posts in a year. So I'm looking at it. He hasn't. Obviously, they're not all his posts because I'm just. But then again, actually, I'm just.
Their comments too. It's activity. So like,
and you're doing reposting. Is that how you're getting so many? Is that how that works?
Well, there are posts that I've made. I've probably made over 100 Yeah, about probably 100. So I would call those pages in the book. So this is how I'm using
Yeah.
this. This is like HyperCard to me. You go back, time travel with me back in the 80s. Do you remember HyperCard?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay. So the early Apple, I think it was HTML based.
The clink, chink, chink kind of hole in the card things, isn't it?
No, that's punch card. That's punch card in the 60s. Okay, so there was a programming language called HyperCard in the 80s. And it was graphical, and it was a lot like basically early World Wide Web, but on a local area network or on a computer. Any rate, very rudimentary what you're looking at. You're pointing out my Steemit page, right?
Yeah. We were just looking at it while you lost your microphone. He was
Yep.
We wanted to get into what Steemit is a little.
It's OSINT. It's an open source intelligence networking terminal. It's OSINT, open source intelligence. Okay, so it's like Reddit. It's like Reddit.
Nice.
It's linear. Okay, it's progressive.
Yeah.
Running on a blockchain. What a blockchain gets down to, I'm going to cut a lot of the science out and the bullshittery out and just get right down to explaining how it works.
Okay.
A blockchain, because it's a combination of somebody's hardware plugged into a network running a software protocol. And it runs as a protocol so that it can keep very accurate trust and record keeping intact. So it's a progressive document. So it's just like a teletype machine. It's just a ticker tape machine. But the things that are recorded on that document are done where everybody has a cryptographic key to the genesis of any information or genesis of any of, you see what I mean?
Wow.
Okay, so their first killer app they came up for a blockchain, they said was, oh, let's make a money system. So they made a digital gold and they called it Bitcoin, and it's the biggest blockchain. It's alive. It started on a date, it runs, and it runs perpetually. It's a perpetual motion device. So because it's a combination of the software, hardware, as a conglomerate, as a homunculum, if you will, Sister Lisa, I'm trying to make this magical. So what I'm trying to point this out is that these are
I think you're doing great stuff. You don't have to try.
But you get it. You get what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay, because it's like recipe. It's the elements of the recipe. It's the your magical potion. So I've got some hardware that people are giving. We call them miners in the Bitcoin world. They're the ones that are putting hardware on the network to say, hey, use this hardware to run your stupid freaking blockchain or whatever, but pay me. Okay, so they came up with a first killer app for this blockchain was to say it makes this digital gold called Bitcoin. So it's mined. Okay, so as a combination of the hardware that people have voluntarily put on the network, running the open source hardware or running the open source software of Bitcoin is the protocol that's open source. You can read the code. You can see how it works. Okay, so stop freaking out and saying it's a Illuminati tool. Okay, read the code or shut up. That's what open source means. That's what open source means. Okay, so show me in the code where the Rockefellers have the back door. Show me in the code. Show me, or shut up. So that's the point. I get very cathartically,
well, that's like, I'll be honest. Sometimes I do think like that. I'm thinking like, is this just another fucking game that they're setting up that we're all going to play on? But if you can prove that's not true, then that's wonderful.
Because they have Ethereum. That's the crypto that the bankers on, right, Brett? Ethereum?
What's that?
Isn't Ethereum the banksters' crypto?
No, because its code is as open as anything. It's more of like Wall Street's crypto. So it's destroying Wall Street. So what Bitcoin will destroy central banking. It did. It's already alive. It's happening. I don't know why people don't see the towers falling again. Yeah. But it's happening in reverse this time, and it's slower.
What was Bitcoin today, by the way? It was over 4,000 yesterday.
This is the one day I didn't look. This is the one day I could take breaks from that.
I'm sure Brett.
Yeah.
What was it today? What was the high?
Well, because I'm Australian, we'll do 5,400 Aussie dollars.
5,400 Aussie dollars. So that's 70. Yeah, it's 25.
5,400 Aussie dollars.
I got a question for you. What are those Aussie dollars based on?
There you go. You guys go
We're
here.
Based on
the finance guys.
Kangaroos.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hops in their system of exploitation. We already know the game. The game was they're writing death notes. These are receipts for debt that they wrote somewhere. Okay,
binary codes created out of thin air.
Well, no, as I understood from what Sando was saying, because I was trying to link why Australia got into this system and how, you know, like in 1931, you know, what was our link to it all. But it just makes sense that we went bankrupt as well, and we've signed everything over. And after World War II, they've come to save us from the Japanese coming down, and it would have just all started back then. How we've got our, you know, our
the bigger con is
corporation.
The bigger con is we're in the now and in the history, you know, since we all take over our history, it's like, okay, well, then do you want to have anything more to do with that legal, cryptic bullshit, psychologically disruptive, what's the other word, dyslexic, legal economic system? No. Well, there's this new thing called cryptocurrency, and this is how you can do it. Now you can spend 5,000 of those kangaroo dollars to buy one of these Bitcoins. Or you can just go out in the generic way, like Sister Lisa and I, and offer your services and just say, yeah, you can pay me in Bitcoin. If I have a service to trade, that's what I do.
Yeah.
My original service trade was 3 Bitcoin back when Bitcoin was $300. So I prefer to keep myself in the 3 Bitcoin range rather than the $1,800 range. You see where I mean?
Yeah.
So because I started pricing,
it does not.
Because I started.
Yeah.
Yeah. I reevaluated and reevaluated where my worth was. And so when somebody first paid me three Bitcoin for my services, I was like, wow, I'm worth 3 Bitcoin. So over here in the US, what am I worth now? That would be about $12,000 instead of the original 18, which is what I thought it was worth.
Right.
You see what I mean? So as a way of psychologically reevaluating, people are wondering, they're like, well, how do I pay my bill? You're a manifester. You're supposed to manifest these. I'm your psychic lead, but I don't know everything you have access to. Brother Brett has access to a coworker space, and he's introducing Bitcoin Jesus. He's like knocking on the door saying, have you guys heard the story of this guy, Bitcoin? No, come on in. Let's grab a chair.
It's awesome because, you know, the funny thing is, over here in Prague, they got weird internet, so there's only like 30 gigs. I got 30 gigs. I went through it in like 8 days. House, so I had to go to a co-working space to go be able to upload and edit the video and that kind of thing and get work done. And I get there and I go Googling co-working spaces in Prague, and I find one that's this place called Bitcoin Coffee in this building, which has
I love that.
Yeah, it's a Bitcoin coffee shop downstairs, and they have great internet. But then they have a co-working space on the 2nd floor, and you have to pay in Bitcoin. They won't accept anything else at the coffee shop or the co-working space. And the 3rd floor is a group called Crypto Anarchy. And they go
together so well.
I loved it.
Yeah, it goes together so well because now I can just tell people why, like, okay, anarchy is not something I'm threatening anymore. Anarchy is what I'm explaining. It's not a threat.
Not a threat.
It's a default. It's like
anarchy a threat. The definition of anarchy is a person or group of people who are sovereign unto themselves and does not have a person or a body or a group of people that control and dictate their policies and actions.
Well, this is etymology science. So when you go to etymology science, and that was thank you for that, by the way, because that is the exact definition. But that is the exact definition. Yes. But the etymology, when you go to the root stock, and you really start performing the wordsmithing, it's no ruler. No rulers.
And arc as in archon, as in yes.
Yeah. And I'll just take it a little bit further in my etymology, is take the ERS off. I'm going to take off the ers. No rules.
There you go. Rules.
That's what Mr. Crowley was.
Do no harm. There is that ultimate universal.
That's what Mr. Crowley was teaching, and he's just like the 60-year-old hillbilly grandpa on the corner to me. You know, I know people think he was a bad dude or think that I'm dark because I invoked his name or something like that. But here's what he had said. He said, "Do as thou wilt." Now that wasn't a threat. That wasn't a commandment. That was him telling you there are no rules.
It was an invitation.
Yeah, and then he also, hang on 1 second.
Oh, your phone is ringing.
He was also following that up with, but let love be the law. And there's a Romans 13. There's a Romans 13:10 connection here for all my Christian friends, which is that Romans 13:10 says, treat your neighbor with love. Let love be the accomplishment. So you have Crowley basically telling you what works in this server room, in this 3D game engine that we're playing. There's no rule. Okay, that's the default.
There's no mob rule. Yeah.
Well, hierarchy
mob rule either.
hierarchy is there, and that's the consensual rule. Okay, that's the tacit consent. We give the hierarchy power. We've given, you know, our masters their, you know,
Their
the
power.
whips,
The oligarchy.
the whips and the chains to bind us and keep us in line. Okay,
and we keep paying them to buy more.
Under
doing things we hate, or the bad. None of us here.
Under the conscript model, under that economic model, under the blockchain model, you're responsible for how your energies. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just of it. You know, I only signed up like right before we left Bali. It's all the rage amongst the digital nomads and anybody into cryptocurrency.
Well, here's
also,
why.
Everybody's pissed off with fascist book, and I'm referring to Facebook, of course, but I call it fascist book because it is. It's a spying technology. They separate everybody. I have 5,000 friends and I don't know how many thousand followers, but out of all those people, I'm sure all those people are not seeing my stuff. And a lot of it, they narrow it down to 1%. If you don't like or click, they're separating and they're spying and they're trying to categorize.
I just posted on this last night. I posted on this very subject last night. So it's funny. So you're marking this right down and proving, you know, my usefulness or my tools or my techniques or my skill. It's like, well, how good of a psychic is Frank? Well, I just wrote about this last night. And it was actually
short of quotation. Is that the one you're talking about? For saying the beginning of the book and the chapter intended to suggest its themes.
Oh, you're reading it. You're seeing it, right?
I'm reading it. I'm looking at it right now. Ruling class, corporations, military industry, politicians, government, courts, global banking, corporate media.
Can you share your screen? Are you able to do that?
Can you share your screen? I don't think we can on Hangout.
If anybody can figure it out, Brett can.
Yeah. Look. Here we go.
Oh, okay, yeah, Brett will know.
Check this out.
Boom.
So this is my art here.
It's black. There you go.
Oh, really? Here we go.
Yeah, look at that.
Just talk so the screen shows. Okay, go, Brett.
Okay, so this is what I was just talking about. Short quotation of saying in the beginning of a book or chapter, intended or suggested its themes. Ooh. Which is exactly what you're talking about. They're the ones at the top that we think should be at the top because we're giving them the rules. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, we're playing by their rules. Sometimes we're beaten into submission, but I mean, yeah, that's
especially because we're speaking English. It's called spelling for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The corporations, the military, politicians, they're all up here. Hey.
Yeah. So that's the mimetic. That's the mimetic. So we understand what a meme is. So I just embedded a meme there. You know, so these are hyper memes. These are hyper memes. So this goes down below to the anatomy of melancholy, and you've got a much better voice than I do. So please.
Yeah, Brett, continue where you left off.
Yeah, corporate media, global banking. See, this is all this stuff which we know is actually there, but most people are afraid to go and have a look at it. And we can see it's on one side, which I love it, how you've put it, the banking, the corporate over here, and then government, politicians, the courts, they're all over here. But it all comes back to the same fucking problem, which is us. Bottom, and we think we're at the bottom, but really we should be at the top as far as I can see.
Well, so this is what
actually, what we could do is co-opt corporations, and instead of letting them be these slothful, greedy, dead legal entities that are parasitic, we can turn it around and make the corporations be open source and give back to society without any
absolutely.
We can deconstruct them with 27 lines of code, sister. That's exactly what we can do. Yeah, and that was what we said last year on your show. Remember when I had my hacker friend on your show last year, and the show never made it on the air, but we were talking about that. Like, we've got government down to 27 lines of code.
Yeah,
it's a record. Yeah. It's a record keeping process. It's a voting process. Yeah. It's a platform. It's replaceable.
Until they turn down the Trade Center 7 and eradicate all their records, or they claim that all the record, they pull a freaking tsunami Katrina and pull all the freaking records of who owns the deeds to the lands down in New Orleans, et cetera, et cetera. That's why they that's why they burnt the libraries in Alexandria, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and this gets back to what we're this gets back to what we're talking about. Our new digital library is Google.
Yeah, absolutely.
Google, Goddess, Gmail, Goddess Mail.
Well,
Google was started by Stanford University, a bunch of kids. But it's not what it is, and it interwoves. What I did hear was amazing from my friend the other day, who actually helped create the internet. She said that Google had to kill its AI program because it took over its own life and they couldn't control it anymore. So they had to pull the plug on it.
We just talked about this the other day. Yeah.
You and I too. Yeah, I've talked about it a few times with a few people. No, it's like, it blew my mind.
It's amazing. It is amazing sci-fi that we're living. You know, they actually kill an AI because it becomes sentient. I can go back to the 80s when they actually created like a field array set of programmable field array microchips, and they were recreating programs. They were actually having these programs go through incarnations, and so they were almost passing on their genes and evolving, and so they were creating these really unique circuits. But it was really funny because I'll have to find this old story and send it to you. It's good enough for an entire Conscious Caffeine session. But this has been sci-fi ever growing. I said this has been sci-fi ever growing, but I wanted to get back to the thing that Brett was just reading. That post that I made last night is a video of James Corbett of the Corbett Report, or Corbett Report. Yeah. I'm sorry, James Corbett, the Corbett Report. Open source news is what he does. He's an open source journalist.
I love him. I've always have, and he pulls people up that are going to fight with each other.
Right, and the thing is
to maintain and moderate them. I know.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're already in business with him because he is also on Steemit. So remember how I told you the platform was like a big human resources platform, and if you're on it, then we're kind of in business by default. So he's in the family, you know, by default. So there's his video explaining how Google is kind of the new library of Alexandria. It's our new digital library, and kind of how it's being, once again, white, ivory towered, centralized, controlled, you know, dominated. It goes into a lot of the Facebook stuff, and how, you know, after watching that 30-minute video, you'll understand very clearly. I mean, these are weapons platforms. They're being used against us. How do we reclaim our energies, reappropriate our energies, and use them in different ways? And you just explained it. We're co-opting. We don't need, like, as much as I like to go along with the whole idea that, like, oh, we're being automated, it's so scary. It's like, yeah, I walked in and I ordered a Big Mac off a touch screen the other day, and I know that replaced some $15 an hour job. As easy as that was to do, automate that
job. What are you doing eating a Big Mac now?
I know, I had to. And
you shouldn't have told her that. Jesus Christ, mate.
But as easy as that job was to replace,
I was in Oz because there was nothing else open, and I blessed it and said, "Okay."
She's not worried about the
you can alchemize it. Just don't eat it all the time. Yeah, you can alchemize it. You can turn it into light. It can be done, but that's why you still smoke too.
Yeah, well, I smoke organic tobacco, but yes, I don't like smoking regular ones.
Yeah, but a Big Mac is about as good as a cigarette. I understand, and the thing is that I ordered it off a touch screen. Well, as easy as it was to replace that $15 an hour job, it's as easy to replace that $600 million an hour or $600 million a year CEO with a pad now.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also works to replace. It's going to cost you $15 in freaking Oz for that Big Mac as well. So it's increasing those profits.
Well, in real land, the Big Mac is $300 actually. Because they take that much in resources. So because we're using the damn dirty blood dollars, and they've reappropriated the entire record keeping process, so you don't know what you're paying. You know, a t-shirt is like, this is what Robert Steele, I'm sorry, I like to call him Bob Balls of Steel, but it's Robert Steele. His superhero name is that he has balls of steel. You know, the guy is a bulldog, and he's a cannonball, and he's been fired, and he's also tethered to Cynthia McKinney, who called out human trafficking years ago.
Yes.
Yep.
And they're both going after this unrig, you know, hashtag. So they've learned how to meme warfare now. So they're like Keck gods in my mind. Like, they're right on. They created an unrig, because you can't kill that. You can't kill these things. But anyway, it's the open source movement that he's been propagating for so long. I don't know where I really was going with that, but where I wanted to come back and end is that video by Corbett is open source intelligence work. You know, it's part of this Robert Steele mentality of, like, get more eyeballs on it and you have truth. Share more of the real data, the real information with the right people, and you have truth. If we come at this from the angle of, look, I know the history of the blood dollars. I don't use them anymore. I use only crypto. I first got paid in crypto a long time ago, about $1,800. But I don't look at it like that. I got paid in 3 Bitcoin. Now I only like holding the space with people in conversation, in talking land, meet space, that understand that concept. Because if I'm not with those people, I'm with the people that are bringing me down.
Yeah.
I'm with the people that are saying, wow, you know, it's like crypto, I don't understand it, and it's not real money, or it's like whatever your negative vibes are, man. Did you ever see the movie Kelly's Heroes?
What do you mean not real money? What people think is real money isn't real money. It has no value.
Exactly.
It's fictional, and it creates, the more that they make of it, the more the inflation goes. So it's, I always said that monopoly money has more money, is probably more valuable than.
Well, Brett, you know, was pointing out the meme that I have on that post, but it's, you know, it's like, we now know it's open source, but it's also, I can show you the record keeping. I can show you how this is all tied back to Vatican banking and bloodlines and back to your feet being stamped on a
We're going to have to do that in another show, because that is definitely something that needs to get covered and not just mentioned.
But here's the thing, it's open source. People can go and see it for themselves. They can go do the research and find out how that's all.
Nobody wants to. They all want the answers. I mean, I'm getting, instead of just getting trolls now, ever since we did the show on the birth certificate bonds and the accessing the treasury deposit accounts and being able to use your Social
because
Security.
everybody wants to know how to do it. But I'm a hacker, so
I'm
I'm a
getting
cheater.
harassed by the very people we were speaking to in the show, saying, if you don't know what we're speaking about, you haven't studied years of law and maritime admiralty law and the legal name fraud, and you don't know your standing or what jurisdiction or a lot of these terms we're using, because they sound like what you think they mean, but that's not what they mean legalese-wise. So unless you know what we're speaking about, do not try this at home. You know, don't go jumping out of the air.
So it's trying to reassert a hierarchy in my mind. So when
I get attacked by so many people. Oh my God, teach me, how do I do this? Oh, you gotta do, why aren't you, where did you go? And I'm like, and there's 400 people blowing up a thread on mine, and I have clients I need to see. I need to take care of my own.
Well, I'm just telling you how you can not weaponize that
schedule, and
I want to show you how to alchemize that, monetize it. I want to show you how to use that, because that's all good stuff. I mean, like Bernays said, propaganda, you know, don't let a good thing go to waste. I mean, if people are blowing up because they're cathartically releasing their energies too. Here's where I come in. I'm the hacker. I'm the cheater. I'm just showing you how to not use it anymore. You guys are all trying to learn how to unfuck it. Fuck that. Don't use it.
Oh, Dia love that.
Yeah, don't use it. So here's my thing. As Bacon, I'm now utilizing a better open source operating platform standard principle, whatever, a medium. A medium. You see what I mean?
Yeah, nice.
So here's my co-media. My co-media is that anybody that else is on this platform I can work with.
Yes.
Yep.
By default, I'm already out of so many legal fictions by just that, right? Number one, you deal with me at Frank Bacon.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful spell right there. At Frank Bacon. Okay. That's limit.com/@Bacon. How do I follow you? How do I send you money? You need to have a campaign to do this. You need to, no, this is how you do it. This right here. It's a funnel. It's a filter. It's my magical altar. It shows right now that, like, we had this conscious conversation, but you guys now see that I prepared for it by creating something last night in the middle of one of my I call it my state. The state, and state. You know, one of my channeling sessions. Ooh, what am I going to talk about? Well, let me make some notes here. And I, you know, shit something on I call it a shit post. And then it goes in this thing called a blockchain. Right? And it's monetized.
Because you see what went in, and it comes out something different.
Well, look at it this way. Brett, you can go down and scroll down again. How much is it worth? It's worth $10 to me right now. Four people have voted on it. Less than a handful of people have voted on it and have monetized it and made me $10 on it. So I automated my money making, if you will. Okay, if you will. This is how I communicate and contextualize the spell. My side's handled. You see what I mean?
Nice.
I don't have to explain it to anybody else now. I'm out of it. I'm out of the mix. You guys keep keep up with your, well, what about your IRS? What about, screw you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see what you're talking about is, you're talking about like next level shit, man. You know, I wish I was stoned right now, because fucking you're blowing my mind. How do I even think about this? What do you mean you're off the fucking, what do you mean? That's what people are thinking. That's why they need to go through all these other processes to get where you are. But because I understand it, I'm like, yeah, man, this is so fucking good.
I've taken Roy off the grid. Have you ever watched an episode of Rick and Morty?
Never heard.
Okay. Watch the Rick and Morty where he takes Rick takes Morty to the arcade, and Morty gets plugged into a virtual reality where he lives a life.
Like
and he gets
Beavis and Butthead or Ren and Stimpy?
No, it's more brilliant than anything you've ever seen.
Okay.
And it's frank. It's his frankness. I want to be honest with you. Like, this is part of the memeware and the warfare and the spiritual tools that we use. Is that, Frank is like Rick, and Rick is a psychotic. Like, he's a raging psychopath in this. It's cathartic comedy. Yeah.
The kids that the house that I'm staying at, friends at the moment, their 13-year-old put me onto this the other day when episode 3.
Synchronistic.
Turned into a pickle, and because he's an alcoholic, drunken scientist that turned himself into a pickle.
And how he got himself out of that pickle is now a cult classic.
Yeah.
And I posted that one too, by the way.
Yeah. Honestly, I only saw that 2 days ago. The kids here at the house. You got
I posted about this a few days before that. So now I have once again, I'm like, well, is Frank psychic? Yeah. And how can you prove that? Well, go look on the blockchain when he can now show like this particular part in the synchronistic part in the conversation. Now I can show Brett where my art was to recontextualize that whole meme. That whole understanding of what the hell are these guys even talking about? Well, have you seen the show? No, then you wouldn't understand. In comedy, we call that an inside joke.
Yeah, exactly.
In sorcery, we call that the hidden school or the mystery school. It's like once you start studying the magical path, you align your psychology to follow patterns better, and you have a pattern recognition engine anyways. So you get down to psychology as a pattern. And then communicating to all your fellow 3D meatbags through these things called words is just really just more of this meme warfare. Like it's memery. Everything is a meme. Everything is a meme.
Everything's a meme. What we're doing now is a meme. It's a meme of a meme.
Yeah. We're just co-opt the language. Whereas like Rocksome, and I don't say hell yeah, I say heaven yeah.
Yeah. That's your reappropriation. That's you getting back the game tools. That's hacking the matrix. You know what I mean? So it's what.
Actually, it's funny you say that. I used to work with this crazy Iraqi guy years ago, and because he was anti-American, anti-Saddam Hussein, and he was like, "No, you don't say motherfucker. You say fatherfucker. Just change it around, man. Just say fatherfucker." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, why not?" Like, I forgot all about it, but yeah, it's when you say that now.
Then our rulers are child fuckers. The pedophiles.
They are.
That's the word.
I always like to christen my conversations with his name was Seth Rich. His name was Seth Rich. His name was Seth Rich. Meme that, because this was a kid who was shot dead in Washington a year ago because he's the WikiLeaker.
Oh yeah. The one who was walking home at 5 o'clock in the morning and just allegedly was a victim of random violence because he had everything to do with being able to prove about the Democratic National Convention.
You want to talk about the most dangerous city in America? It's a city called Washington, D.C., and it, along with the Vatican, along with...
And it's not even in America. It's a sovereign state unto itself.
Right. So those are the 3 cities that we could be kicking out because we're not playing in their stagecraft anymore. So this is what blockchain is doing. It's outside of the fiction of the 3 cities in the the J.R.R. Tolkien novel or whatever we're in. Those are where the eyes of Sauron of this planet are, where all this bullshit goes around.
It's also part of Bucky's policy, Buckminster Fuller. The whole don't try to tear down you don't have to attack it. You just create something that makes it moot. Right. So this technology called blockchain came along 9 years ago. It's been functioning pretty well. And so you take it back to the theme, the overall arching theme here, when we were talking about the theme and how these power systems, okay, well, here's how you don't use them. I'm the hacker. I'm not going to tell you how to break their system. Stop using it. You're the fucking idiots if you're going to keep being psychopaths and going back to a legal fiction to try and correct your legal fiction. Fuck you. Walk out of it. Get out. This gets back to Mr. Crowley and his chapter 23 in his Liber, the Book of Lies, and it said get out. Well, that's why we have BrettStar and Rainbow Warrior Goddess and Frank Bacon all on live on YouTube.
Exactly.
Right.
And actually, Santos last week, I asked him that question about how do we get these people out? And he says, "Man, you know the deal. We can't. You got to give them the answer." And if they don't follow you and they don't get out their own way, then they're just stuck there for eternity or until they figure it out. And some people will
breadcrumb mat and say, see ya, hopefully you get out of the labyrinth. Otherwise they pull you out of the life raft.
Yeah, exactly. Come over here, and actually there you go. That is a very good analogy. Like I was a lifesaver many years ago, and one of the first things you're taught as when you're swimming out into the ocean to save somebody is you've got to push them afloat towards them. If they jump on your head, you've got to let them drown. And then then you drag them in unconscious, and then you give them mouth to mouth, because you have to let them, you have to save yourself first.
Right. And that's the way I look at it. Like when I break from the convention of like the conversations always go in the direction of, well, you got to help these folks to get, no, I don't. And everybody thinks I'm a cold-blooded psychopath. And I'm like, no, I'm waiting for them to drown. And I'll drag them back and maybe give them mouth to mouth, because what I'm talking about is spiritual triage. I want to hold space.
I used that term in my letter today. I said, good luck with your spiritual triage that's coming after this eclipse.
Right. This is 5 planets in retrograde.
Yeah. And Mercury as well. But on the 21st.
Where are you? I'm in the zombie shelter. Fuck you. I'm not even out in the public. You guys are crazy. I work from the the internet. I don't get out there to get caught up in this. This is a mess that's coming.
What's that movie where everyone sits at home and robots go and do everything for you?
No. That's another good sci-fi.
Wally?
No. Like everyone just sits in their chair and has glasses on.
Like Replicants or something like that. That's also based on a Philip K. Dick. Yeah. Another Philip K. Dick. But I mean, it's true. I mean, I don't have to expend all these resources blasting 40-hour work weeks. Those are.
Yeah, but that's crazy. And Brett can verify this, and I can verify it for him. And it was part of the conversation about this birth certificate. Even though we don't have to work the 9 to 5 rule or the 10 to 10 rule, whatever it is for some people. We work just as much, if not more, as we did when we were in that shitty system, doing what we're doing.
They corrupted that a long time ago, and they said you got to do 40 hours of work, or you got to do no, you got to live, just live. I have a smartphone.
That's
not
a smartphone. We don't do it that. We don't do it for that reason anymore.
Right. I have a laptop. I don't call this isn't work. This is how I live. Okay. This is 40-hour weeks. I don't know. I think I have 300 hours a week, don't I? Like 7 times. Yeah.
And you work from your bed and naked a lot of the time, or the bathtub.
Yeah.
On the porch smoking.
I call it a shit post for a reason. I can post it while I'm on the shitter. I mean, it's monetizable now. I've already automated.
Yeah, while I'm shitting.
You're being paid to be writing while you're taking a shit.
Well, that's what some people are doing in the la world, right?
Yes,
that's what people are doing. But our energies have all been misappropriated and extracted in different ways that people see it has to go in a certain way. And I just choose not to use the damn dirty blood dollar as a means of receipt.
Yep.
It's not a means of receipt for me. It's a stupid receipt. It's a terrible receipt. Why would you trade for receipts like that?
Yeah.
Death notes.
No,
and it's worse because they give you paychecks now, and it's just numbers of death.
They don't give you paychecks. They don't even give people paychecks anymore. As a matter of fact, they're cutting out checks. And if you don't get paid electronically, you can't get paid in a lot of corporations.
Well, if I don't get paid electronically, I don't get paid either, because I'm working on a blockchain system. No, that's how I like to get paid.
You're forcing people to have a bank account in order to be paid into. I did not. You don't have you have a Bitcoin wallet. That's different.
Exactly. So it's part of that role. It's all that role modeling that everybody is going through, because they're psychologically trapped on their own rule system. I don't know why they believe what they believe.
It's their self-limiting beliefs that they've allowed to be implanted, and they refuse to take a look at them, and all the stuff we talk about. If they can't get curious, it's out of cognitive dissonance, because everything we talk about, and why I sound crazy to my family, is because everything I talk about is so far outside their realm of perception, like this little golf ball. They don't see this. They go, no, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. They just don't get it. And they can't see. And they're innocent, but they're also ignorant. They're naive, but a lot of them can get very violent about it. And as a shadow worker, no, this is key, because I discussed this with one of my clients today. As a shadow worker, because of the family I grew up in, who was in complete denial and not wanting to look at their shadows. And I'm empathic, so I can grok what people are thinking and feeling and whatever. I got very good at people refusing to look at the stuff that they hid from themselves, as well as they hide from others, called our ego mask. and are in complete denial, and they have this emotional blackmail agreement that you will agree to see me as I'm pretending to be, and I'll pretend to be
the roles we play.
No, but what shadow work does is I'm really good at what I do. And what happens, it's the same with Kundalini. I'm sure you had this experience with because you're all unconditional Ananda bliss love. And you run into anybody, if they have a lot of shadow, what it does is that love energy is like a magnet for the love that they hide in their heart and they keep to themselves and they don't let out. So all the fear and all that is what gets projected onto you.
That's the mugging. That's the mugging.
Exactly. And it's also the shadow. As a shadow worker, when I get real close and I start finding the buttons that people have and telling them where we need to go, they get so good at distraction and running and coming up with an excuse, or just hanging up and saying the phone died, or they run away for 6 months because they have a love relationship with their wounds and their beliefs. Because
and you know what's funny? You know what the funniest part is? The number one tool that I found most useful in mitigating that, in alchemizing that for people, and just showing them a very simple step, the feel it, face it, free it rule of that, because that's why it takes somebody 6 months. They got to run and really lick a wound, right?
No, all they have to do is for 1 minute really fully feel that emotion.
Right. So and one tool I found that works best with doing that, like getting it over with quick, like let it go, like
rip off the Band-Aid, baby. Don't drag it out a hair at a time.
Right. Is a cannabis session.
Ayahuasca.
Well, I would say let's do a training wheels first, because I've done my stint with DMT, and I would recommend DMT. Like I would weaponize DMT and just blast entire populations. I'm maniacal.
Why don't we hijack and get hackers to go in and reprogram the chemtrail planes to pump DMT all over the planet?
Right.
Yes.
See, so I'm
my own brain, pineal glands.
Right. I'm a diabolical supervillain in that sense, because now that I know, like, okay, I can't do that. What would he do? Well, I'd legalize cannabis right away. And like it happened in my state, and it happened a few years ago. So when they did that, it caused a rebound, economically speaking, of billions of dollars coursing through that state. So what I saw is like, what's tough? All this stuff you described about the shadow work is like going to start happening at a fractal stage, like it's happening to groups, it's happening the entire organ.
It's already started, and it's exponentiating right now.
Right.
It's not going, to the nth power. It's not doubling or tripling.
No,
and
it's going.
This is it. The eclipse on the 21st. All the planets are in a row. It's the particle convergence. It's everything that everybody thought was happening the moment of December 21st, 2012, when really now all the energies are there.
Right. And look what's leading up to it. The
Yeah.
Charlottesville thing is an exact example of this mugging that starts coming out in broad daylight. It's like, well, if it's mugging with people that's close and in a family, it might be words and stuff like that. But we've taken it, the psychopathy of the group mind and in society, and creating, cities and how people are supposed to act out their roles, right, has magnified that to, well, now I'm in a 5,000-pound car and I can step on the gas. You know what I mean? Rather than raging out. The outrage is now dangerous because people can club each other, and they can, you know what I mean? So these are the fractal.
Well, the ego's crazy, and the cognitive dissonance. I always utilize they're living in their ego, and if you're only living from your left brain, your rational brain, the one that the society, the false society honors,
the rule follower.
No, but if you only live in your ego and you do not honor your heart, your divine feminine, your compassion, your higher self, you are like a 3-year-old at the wheel of a Mack truck with a cement block on the gas pedal and no power steering. And that's what we're about to witness.
Exactly. And so, like people are saying, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I was seeing this a long time ago. So I left the grid. I gave up the legal fraud. And then I went off to try and build a county, build a county process of like, hey, let's go take over a county.
A county.
And accounting. And accounting is now taken care of on a blockchain because my account is at Frank Bacon. Okay. That's my account. I have some other accounts too. I have a lot of accounts. It's great being able to use the blockchain as a weapons platform for spiritual warfare, because that's what we're running up against.
Here's my weapon.
Well, now we can. Well, this video, by the way, it's great that you're doing these live, but let's also re-upload this on DTube. And Brett can probably play around with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
I'll let you explain this very quickly, but to be honest, guys, I haven't eaten a thing all day because I've been serving to everybody, and I literally, it's 6:30 where I am, and I've been up since 4 a.m. So,
well, how long have we been going? I mean, this is a very long talk.
We've been going 2 hours now.
2 hours, yeah. Now, just actually, while we're all talking away there, I actually am just about to post this live on Stream It, which is funny that we're going to shut down. But
there you go. But you can post it on Steam It, and then 5 minutes later you can post. It'll turn into the video. But I don't. What I do is I shut down this video, and then we create our edited version. So it's better to share it live on.
I would think. I think that's kind of cool because what these are eventually going to go away. These centralized systems of control. People are getting kicked off YouTube right now, left and right. One of the major not whistleblowing, great journalists out in DC right now that I'm following, Lee Stranahan. By the way, if anybody can help me get in touch with people, that's what I do. I network. So like right now I'm trying to reach, I'm a good conduit for Robert Steele, like doing interviews with Robert Steele, but it's got to be interviews that have to have like good outreach. Like he's very political and I think he's very well received in Australia. So any help there would be greatly appreciated. And I work for goodwill and favors. You know what I mean? Like I don't mind trade. Absolutely. If somebody wants to work out arrangements for, like I've paid people, but I only pay people in blockchain. I pay people on Steam It. So I've paid several $100s to people for doing things for like favors, like, hey, can you reach this person on Twitter and get through to them? Here's $50 for that, that kind of stuff.
You're on.
Yeah. So please, I'm all for spreading the goodwill, but let's not conscript ourselves back into the damn dirty blood dollars that are stained with the blood of babies that have yet to come on the planet.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why I was thinking this would be a good way to kind of quickly just teach people on how Steam It works, because I'm posting live on mine. I've put you in as our main tag, so you come up, Frank Bacon. So it's going to connect to you. So then the way it works, people, is then I'm hoping Frank will then he will share it with his group. Then his group will share it, and that's how it works. This is the open source that we're talking about. It's so wonderful, and we all get paid.
Well, and this is an OCENT terminal. It's the open source networking terminal. It's networking us. It's open. So anything you post on this is open. Anybody can see what's done on here. So it's not private.
And they can see how much money you're making. They can see your account. Yeah, it's a beautiful system.
For a political platform, I think it's just
transparent. That's what I love about it. It promotes authenticity and transparency. And there are bots looking to make sure to check that you are being authentic.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to have, for all of its goods, it's going to have its bads, but it's going to also have this very unique feature set that's an IT solution. I think of Steam It as an IT solution, internet technology. So when I was talking about that unique feature set of software coming on with hardware that's being voluntarily associated to the network, and people are like, whoa, is that private? Is that safe? Well, it's safer than banking. It's safer than, anything else out there. I work with John McAfee too, and this is on the record. So I take privacy super seriously. Blockchains are decentralized networks. Okay. They're not a single source of failure. The only single source of failure is in your ability to keep your key private. That big, long 26-character password that it gave you, Brett, is your business. Now, from that standpoint, everything is transparent. So I have proof of life with you that if I'm interacting with you, now that I've seen you face to face on the interwebs here, I know that you're operating a terminal that has a 26-character cryptographic hash key that's pretty unhackable as long as you've kept it. And like Julian Assange level, hey, is Brett still alive? Well, I don't know. He hasn't posted in a week or whatever. Well, somebody should call him. Somebody should email him or whatever. You know what I mean? This is proof that you do stuff. So whether you're sharing something, whether you're posting something, it's like a Twitter account. And so everything you do from the capacity of creating a thought or idea or, general, I call it an idea log, It's just going to log your ideas, whatever you're putting out there. And it's written in Markdown language. Markdown language was invented by Aaron Swartz, who is rich off of a website called Dig, D-I-G-G. He was also the kid that got beat up and killed probably by the FBI for stealing free university information and giving it out free on the web. You know, it was a terrible hacker story. I would kindly ask anybody to look up. Aaron Swartz is very famous. He invented Markdown language.
Oh, he died.
It's a lot like text edit light. It doesn't allow you to have flim flam all over.
Aaron, I'm sorry, I was getting water. Aaron Swartz was amazing. He was the one who committed suicide. He was awesome. Did we lose you, Frank?
I was rambling.
Oh, sorry. I just jumped in and I forgot to listen on the radio because I walked away to go get water and they turned around acting like I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my friends. Which is what
that's the way this works. That's the way this works. We don't need the pomp and pageantry of programming built for us by mega corporations that are only owned by, you know, six companies, right? This is
all media.
This is the edutainment. It's like we sat down and had coffee with Lisa and we videotaped it and then we put it out there and 10,000 people saw it and suddenly we started making income off of this thing called blockchain and it got very crazy and we were in retrograde and, you know, whatever. Write out your own science fiction novel. I don't know what's going to happen.
You, Brett? Wait a minute. My co-host. You know, no, we gotta bring it up to not sitting around and having coffee and putting it out. We gotta bring people around to our shisha sessions. Shisha sessions. With a little bit
live shisha with Lisa.
And some cannabis.
Well, I like that. I like that idea because I've been liking the idea of doing content from, you know, the standpoint of like getting around all the violations and the rules and everything and the laws and just saying,
yeah, that's what I do too.
And
I find cracks in systems.
Right. And that's how we would advertise cannabis companies in Colorado. So that's what we've been working on is like, you know, the format is where we would be able to bring up the concept of, okay, what's everybody doing? Well, we're trying out these products from this particular company. And then you don't have to talk about advertising. You don't have to get, you know, I'll be very frank. You don't have to whore yourself out to the system.
I never have. I've always promoted for free the things that I believe in and the people that I believe in. My whole website was created as a gift for people who couldn't afford to heal themselves. And now I'm finding that I can take everything I gave away for free and put it as content on Steemit and make a living off all the work I've already done.
There you go. You see, because that's the thing is that content that you'd produced way back when was reaching people like me back when I needed to hear it. It was getting out. It worked. But you didn't have any direct peer-to-peer connection other than the synchronicities and the universe brought us together.
Yes. Oh, no, absolutely. I found everybody. I found everyone that's in my family now after Kundalini, except for a very small handful of people. Those people were people who were able to make the change and shift and allowed to see me in a different way. They're more open-minded and we're also in an evolutionary path themselves. Because we don't I just wanted to finish that piece.
Yeah.
A lot of people everyone who knows me knows I'm very strong belief in what I believe in, but they also know that I will listen to everybody else's side and I love to debate. I do not like people because they don't have the same beliefs that I have. What pisses me off about people is if they try to steal power or use it in an inappropriate manner. They get pleasure harming other people, or they're being sneaky and taking advantage of the fact that they're somehow wiser or in a position of somebody underneath them. I am all about
what you described as the mugs. You just described the mugs. Yeah. You have a problem with the mugs. Yeah. It's the thing is that the mugs we're misled, you know, and that's how they deal with their pain. And your evolving platform now in Steemit is that you have a direct association to how you build your network. Yeah, it's very rudimentary. This thing is so rudimentary. All it's going to do is it's going to connect your account to somebody else's account as like a follower, or you follow them.
What's crazy simple, and I'm speaking this for the lay people that are listening, because I'm a very lay person on Steemit. And even social media or the computer, Brett is astounded at how I don't know how to use my Mac. Couldn't even make a file. Our friend Niels had to show me how to make a file on my computer to send it to someone. I just go in and I do what I need to do. But I find
they have become very complicated. They've become way too complicated, and we really do need to take a step back. So the rudimentary, basic interface that you have on Steemit is so simple that people are like, oh, it needs more bells and whistles because we're normally used to that.
I get it. It's kind of like
that's exactly the point. Because actually, I went in there when I first had a look at it, and I'm like,
too easy.
Like,
Exactly.
yeah, but it can't be this easy. Like I was looking for something bigger and harder or more, or like
Right.
I was looking for like,
and it's all right there. I did the same. I'm like, I couldn't figure out how to do anything because it was so simple. I was overthinking.
yeah.
You're normally
it's
using somebody who's
definitely
built
retro.
a user interface where they exaggerate certain key features over other key features. That's the art of a UI, a user interface. What's brilliant and beautiful about this, and the most important feature, and I got dramatically cut off before I could say it before, is that Steemit, the superpower behind Steemit, and why others will fail and why this one will succeed. This is the secret sauce. This is the secret juju sauce. And nobody wants to look at it this way, but this is what's so incredible about it. Not a single pixel, not a single strip or character of code devoted in any way, shape, or form to advertising.
Yep.
Yes.
That's why I asked you if it was okay to put my website in the post, because I noticed there was no promotion of any other kind other than using people's at Frank Bacon or my at RW, our warrior goddess, or
you are the advertising. So whereas Eddie Bernays, the master sorcerer, stole it and turned it into public relations, I'm open sourcing it and saying that this is public relations. This is a public relating pace, or a post. I mean, a platform.
Yeah.
No, what's even better for me, because I'm, like I was saying, I don't know about any of this stuff and I'm learning, but I've always promoted everyone and everything that I thought was doing good, but I never really promoted myself. I had to learn how to promote myself. I would just magnetize people because I don't think don't ever want to try to sell anything. Right. But I was also still reclaiming my value and worth as a contributing human being or soul on the planet at these times. And, I got a lot of ancestral stuff to deal with. But what I do know, and anyone who knows me, I have a very catalytic energy. I bring in and I create chaos. And depending on the energy in you is whether it's entropy or syntropy that comes about from it, whether it's a death and rebirth.
This show is a perfect example of your skill set. You bringing me together with Brett over the long course of time, culminating these energies. You've been networking this for a long, long time. And this show came together not because of a lot of preparation. In fact, there was a lot of chaos before the show. And that's why I wanted to link back and say, well, here was my skill set. This is what I wrote about last night. And here's how I used this open platform. And so here I am expounding all this great esoteric knowledge. Well, I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is and also show it and demonstrate it. And you need to do that as well. You need to take credit. I want to give you all the credit for this, because this was you putting this all together over the course of a year of knowing me from LinkedIn. So thank you for even proving what you just said, because I love the chaos. I do.
I
don't like the plan.
Give it to me every week.
I was just watching a documentary on that the other day. I'm going to have to play it. Has anyone played the Chaos game?
I haven't.
So familiar.
But I've lived it.
Tell us.
I am Chaos. My cat. I had a cat named Chaos. Chaos and Satan. Satan like Black
so
Beauty.
the game works like, basically you have a white piece of paper. You put 6 dots with 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 3 dots. 1, 2, 6, and then you throw the dice. And every time it comes on a number, you put a dot between the 2 numbers. And then you throw the dice again, and that number again, and then you put the dot between put a dot between those 2 numbers.
Triangle thing, right?
That's it. Yeah. And it just proves that the chaos theory, as much as we think it's chaos, it's totally organized and run in
sacred geometry, fractal geometry. It's all there.
Right.
Let me finish the last part of that thing we got into, though. I said the only thing I know is I never tried to sell myself for a long time, and then I realized it was okay to promote myself. I'm a cheerleader for the world, but it's okay to be a cheerleader for my issues as well. But what I am is catalyst. And I built an entire, I did this Transformers Mastermind for Visionary Leadership program, trying to learn tools, how to bring my gifts into the world, because I had a lot of content, but I didn't know how to do anything on the computer. And the one thing I learned, they freaked out when they found out I had 5,000 friends and thousands of followers on Facebook and thousands on LinkedIn, because I didn't have a published book. And it was just because I got it by attraction. So I have what they call loyal.
We talked about that last year. That was our first conversations. Like, we were both astounded. Like, hey, all these people are following me. It's funny when you just get authentic and just starts, resonating, the right people show up. And
Yeah.
it really was. It was showing me in social networking how they would always say, well, SEO and buzzwords. And this, like, no, be who you
I don't
are.
have any search engine optimization. I don't have to use hashtag, not one.
Because that's part of that fog of war. They wanted to get back into public relations and try to control all that and make us role models. You know, so what you were doing is you were breaking out of the role models and you were proving, like, that's what I was learning from you last year. I was like, hey, it's crazy. I'm going crazy and all these people are following me. And you're like, so am I. And it was this good little cogen. And I was like, you know, these networks are going to get better and better and we're going to be able to monetize them better. I'm going to check back with you when I can explain this blockchain thing better. Buy Bitcoin. And they think that was our first conversation.
It was our first physical conversation. We had interacted a lot online via LinkedIn or Facebook and shared some information, but we had never talked till that day.
And we were talking about the end of the ideas of like you have to sell yourself or market yourself in a certain way. Just be, you know, more legitimately authentic to your message and stay to it, because
I had already been that way, but I also had given up on my show after being hacked for the third time and in a foreign country, traveling alone. My bank's accounts empty, locked off all my internet accounts. I was like, okay, I just need a break.
Well, we knew then too that there was still a lot to shower off. I knew I wasn't ready. You know, like I wasn't even walking still last year.
Yeah,
very well. So
I was barely. As a matter of fact, we won't go there. Brett was there for all of it. And by the way,
the ski injury, the ski injury.
No, I wasn't there for the ski injury.
Oh
no, just the Kundalini injury.
Yeah, I was in Bulgaria. He was there when I had my broken ankle and I got back though, and I couldn't go anywhere. And Bali didn't seem to know it wasn't rainy season, and I was basically in my house for the last 4 months in Bali. Yeah.
So that's what I get worried about when I hear about those stories in the shakeouts, and like, oh, we have 6 retrograde planets coming up, and solar, and the lunar eclipse. I think, you know, if you don't believe in the occult, now's a good time to start learning that some of these things have, you know.
I had I'll never forget my friend Rod Wells, who hopefully will be watching one of the shows, when he gave me a book on the Illuminati when I was like 14, and he gave me my first deck of tarot cards, and we used to just sit there and smoke pot in Pot Park behind Main Street in Eggertown, underneath the tree that blew up when I made my Message to the Powers That Were video, and when I challenged my first video, the Message to the Powers That Were, when I called them out saying we got a good lesson.
Those are your recantations, by the way. Yeah, those are your.
Really, where I made that video a month later, there was a lightning storm, and the lightning struck that tree where I sat and cried and smoked pot all the time as a kid, trying to hide from my family, and then made that video a month later, split in half, right where my head was.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. But,
no, it's like it's a Michael Bay movie. I mean, it's like this is the universe showing you how potent you are. Like, we are great manifestors, you know, like there's a lot of good messages built into that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I mean, tell me what you think, but I think that's all a great sign.
I agree, and I actually think it's that video that the Durga energy got used in my consciousness when she made the video when I was on my Kundalini that we talked about. That I use as an example of the transpersonal experience that you can experience doing Kundalini that looks like mental illness or somebody being crazy, but to plug in with it and not be and use it as an educational tool. Brett was actually one of the first people I ever showed that video. I would only show, there's not many people you can show that video to. And I don't think I didn't really promote that video. So I know if people find it, they're meant to. But Brett, you know my Kundalini video from Thailand.
I have seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah. And it's a good video, and it's exactly, you know, the kind of stuff that I knew when I saw it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have, like, so for example, like this conversation is very deja vu for me, because it's when I saw videos like that when I was like, oh, I'm going to be talking to this person like she's a sister, and, you know, doing business with her and all this stuff. And I'm just not going to do it through the old ways. And that set me off kind of crazy, because that's when your mind goes, oh my God, I don't know how to do that. That's the point. You know, you're supposed to kind of figure these things out, but you're supposed to also let go of the old without having, you know, it's kind of where you generate faith. It's like, I don't know how people are going to do it individually, but people are going to get shook of a lot of their old ways, their old thoughts, their old family things. You know, there's just a lot of shakeup coming.
Oh, and I just experienced a bunch of it, and I cleared house.
And it's just but it's, you know what I mean? It's very dramatic.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be traumatic. It's because of traumas that it's
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely.
And it can get it's like what you were saying, Lisa. It's like if somebody's not going to shake loose of it quickly, it's going to drag out for months and it's going to suck, and that's where it's traumatic.
Months or years or lifetimes with a lot of the
Right.
people that I've been around in my life. And I think I chose
Right.
to dive very low in the consciousness scale in order to bring up as many people as I could.
Right.
At least in the ancestral lineages that I chose to incarnate into. And
right.
There's a lot there.
Well, now you did something with your you did something with your video years ago that now I'm trying to explain that when you
we lost him when I what?
Damn, we lost him again.
He'll come right back. I don't know what video he's referring to. No, it's okay. Go ahead. I don't know what video you were referring to.
This one that we were just talking about when you were in Thailand and giving your recantations, you know, the powers that shouldn't be.
When I got when Durga, that was in full Kundalini, and I barely remember. I mean, my ego remembers kind of seeing it happen, but I saw that video when everybody else did after. It's an energy that came through me, and it made a message, and it was.
Yeah.
And Santos is like, "Oh my God, you're Durga incarnate," and I'm like, "Well, she came through me."
Yeah. Well, and these were some of the things I was seeing because crazy things like that were happening to me, and I was getting a very clear indication like this is going to be happening to other people. Like this is a different time. There's something that happened in 2012 that really shook off a lot of what was holding this kind of stuff coming back. That's why I call it spiritual triage. And people like you and me, we go through the crash course because we know we're going to see it and we're going to be able to laugh it off. And they're going to think we're crazy because we're laughing it off. And we're going to be like, no, we're trying to keep you calm because if you don't learn to laugh this off, it'll kill you. You'll go neutron bomb or something, whatever. Because people need this space to be held. And one of those spaces in the West here would be a place where people could treat that, where they're not going to be dragged off and beat by cops for having a flower in their pocket. Because I'll tell you, the best way to treat some of that cathartic release of, muggled energy that's been held back for generations is a nice doobie and some YouTube. It's not hard. It's really not hard. It's actually very simple, but we have very complex systems that would deviate.
Seriously, if you could just have create this like shisha lounge where people who don't smoke could smoke some shisha, and you have all things to smoke and to drink, kind of like Akasha. It's a hangout, although there's marijuana there. And you just show videos, and it can be everything from America to freedom to fascism to like the whole I love what's his face. Oh, I can't get his name. He made all the movies. He made Esoteric Agenda, and I'm his friend.
Oh, Ben Stewart.
I love
his stuff's amazing.
But I mean, and he was like 30 when he made Esoteric Agenda, and then
and now I've got this 26 and 27-year-old from the West Coast there, Jordan Sather. Have you been seeing any of his new YouTube videos? He's got about a 40,000.
Jordan Pierce or Jordan who? I mean Jordan Pierce from Spirit Science?
No,
that kid?
No, I know you know him. Yeah. This is Jordan Slater. Anyway, it's not important. We can be re-networking with these people because now it's like, hey, I saw your message and I really like it, and I think we need to be networking. By the way, here's Steam it. Learn how to use it. Because once you're past that stage, now you can crowdfund with these people. You can send them money if you want to. You can, communicate with them
just in different ways.
But you're not going to cram their visual space with any advertising now. You are the advertising.
That's what I was saying. What I love about Steam It is that I can pull all the things I did in all the other different ways and pull it into Steam It, and I don't have all the junk in the way.
Exactly. So it's the perfect altar for getting our messages across, our spells written, because you're not in sales, you're in spells. What you need.
I knew I was a witch when I was 6 years old, and I got my first book on Wicca.
Right. And so you don't have to go through that old rigmarole la BS or the professionalism. You have company, you have your own company, you do business with people. Here's one platform now that's open on this new standard, this new universal standard that's been birthed in the 21st century called blockchain, which gives you a heck of a lot more control over the energetics behind all of the storytelling. Like if you made a lot of money on this platform, however you want to deal with the government, that's your business. All I know is that you have a 26 character key that
wait a minute, you just used the word money. If you want to make all this money on the platform, it's not money. You can Steam It.
Yeah, exactly.
Currency.
It's a currency, and it's an accounted for currency. It has a game theory behind it. There's an open source way it's
There's a
programmed.
measurable value to it.
Right. It's not something that they can just, it's credited. It's a credited resource. This is the best part to put it. It's not a debt resource. It's a credited resource. It's issuing its own credit.
Yes.
So it's actually more money than it is currency, because money, it does hold value. This is going to hold value, where currency is going to fall, which that's the difference.
You're getting paid in essentially the ubiquitous receipt system that's on the platform itself. Okay, and so it's a shareholder, you know, so it's a share in the company. So if it goes up in value, guess what? If you're holding on to it, it's going to go up in value. You see what I mean?
Everyone
so
does.
if it goes down in value, same thing. You can reinvest your shares into the platform. There's a way to make your platform. There's a lot of game theory here. This is Zork. You remember Zork?
Yeah.
The old text-based video game, Zork, and like that's kind of what this is. So in the older blockchains, mining, putting computer hardware in to generate the token, to generate the currency, that's great. That's being done by cryptographic computer work, very, very intensive stuff. On this blockchain, it mines based on your content, and if your content is valuable based on what other people think. So it's all in how you build your network. It's all in who you're. The only way and the best way to use this is authentically. Don't try to scam anybody. Don't try to tell a different story.
Try to scam on Steemit, you're going to get so screwed. Not only karmically, but you're going to be caught and bagged and outed.
In hours. In hours.
You can't be in denial on Steemit because it's all right in front of everyone.
Right. It's so self-corrective.
Yes. Yes.
And because you can, not really pretty up your post with too much flim-flam because it's in this markdown language. It's really just, man, just stick to the facts.
Very masculine. It is very masculine, linear and rational.
Yeah. And so however you want to bring the divine feminine in, or the co-creative side, and put art in. That's why, again, for me it's great to remind everybody again that I'm a work of scientific fiction on the blockchain. I'm kind of an AI running on this thing that's alive. Okay. It's taking care of me. I have my Social Security. I have my retirement fund. I have everything that I can account for on that platform. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people say, well, you can't kill a blockchain. You can't just shut this thing down like with a government decree. It's like asking the sun not to set. So it's much more anarchistic. It's much more mob mentality, because that's kind of the default. There are no
rules. The word. It's much more in perpetuity, like the perpetuity trusts.
And it is. It's a trust engine. I used to call this like my last will and testament. Like every post you make, think of it as like your last will and testament, because that's what it is. It's whatever you've written is as written in stone as you like it. You have 7 days to edit a post, but once it's on there, it's on there. It's not coming down.
No, that's what I love about it too, because, and I want to hear more about this D2, but we'll do this in another conversation. Because YouTube, almost every really powerful video that I have that talks about the satanic bankster pedo circuits and interviewing the mom of the children that came forth, or anything that has severe content, they find an excuse to say I'm in somehow some kind of copyright violation, or I have content that's not advertiser friendly. You can put porn on the freaking Brett showed me. I'm like, oh my god, that looks like porn, and these people have millions of views. And it's basically pornography. There's nothing different. You can see everything. But I get a video from a mom whose kids come out talking about how their dad's the head of a satanic pedophile cult at their school and outed the names of all the teachers, police officers. And I get shut down saying I'm being dangerous and threatening the safety of that child, even though it's a copy of a witness statement from to the police.
Right.
How in heaven? That's ridiculous.
And now we're talking about ancient. And now we're talking about ancient history, because now we have the power. Now we have the power to take those people and give them Julian Assange level status of WikiLeaks documentary. Let's get your testimony written down. Let's write it down. Let's get you an account on this. So now we have a place that we know terminates to the person that gave this testimony, so that anybody that knows this account really well can verify that it's a real human or whatever. You know what I mean? So then it's based on this totally different set of laws and circumstances where people are thinking the information or associating the information with truth.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, what do you think about, Frank, about me taking my old radio shows and going through some of those and sharing those on Steemit as well, just to have some bulk to add.
It's mandatory. Oh, it's mandatory.
Yeah,
You know, you got to keep building your chain. You got to keep building your particular account with all your good content.
Yeah, but to me, that's old news. But I realize and think that I've kind of always been one of those people like both of you that are kind of, we're ahead of our time kind of. And
oh,
I
yeah,
think the world is catching up. So where I was years ago, maybe it's actually timely now. Like that.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, it absolutely is. You're right on track, because now you'll know why you spent the time to put all the effort in years ago, because you're like, oh, it wasn't for now. It was so I can sit back and be lazier today and just repost it, you know. And
but
now
I can gain value from my donations, which is it's
exactly
my sharing to blockchain, and
Plus,
I can be thanked and upvoted and earn life force and energy and approval from people for having done stuff that they think has value, as opposed to YouTube making a fortune and me getting like a penny while I was helping promote all these evil. That's what I didn't want to monetize my videos forever, because I didn't want freaking some evil corporation or freaking Pfizer or Merck or Monsanto making money off of my videos.
And now you can build your audience, because what you're doing with it now is you're just recontextualizing it, or you know, moving it.
Recontextualizing it is perfect, because it's evolving
and
it.
It holds that same attraction space that it had before. So
what
it's
going to about it is you can thank Brett, because I cried to him about from the day I met him. Oh, I have a radio show and I'm going to start it up again. For a year, and he thought I was full of shit. Probably thought that I was like a lazy ass that never did anything, and I lived in the past or whatever. But it was because of him that inspired me to do it again, and also that I actually started the radio show to listen and to be able to ask good questions instead of talking all the time. But I'm all about balancing the divine masculine and feminine, and I love having him, because now there's two of us, and that automatically throws us into a trinity with any guest, which is amazing.
Well, here's the other side of the fulfillment of the trinity. I've already got Steampunk Radio set up as an account, working with some friends in Tennessee. So it will just make content for the Steam It community, only connect to the Steam It community. Yeah, well, no, it's your platform too. What I'm doing is I'm sharing it with you guys to say now we can come together and start companies differently. We're co-opting. We're cooperating.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying Steampunk Radio is actually a platform where we could do?
No, Steampunk Radio is an account on Steam It.
Ah, gotcha. It's a tag.
It's our friends. And so now we just need to create where we broadcast from. And so where DTube is now, we'll probably have something for streaming video in another couple of weeks. So this is going to keep accelerating. You know, we're in this curve.
So we can go live on YouTube and live on Steam It at the same time, and eventually we'll just want to pull all the traffic from YouTube.
Eventually you'll just want to be live on Steam It. Eventually you'll just want to be live on Steam It, because again, this is about saving too many people. We don't want thousands and thousands of followers. We want a tight-knit group of, you know, a few hundred followers. Like
highly qualified.
That make you a multi-millionaire in shorter steps, so that you can do more with the time that you have. You know
Are you kidding? This all Brett and I have talked about since we met is how we both had the courage to jump out of the job and leave our countries in any kind of comfort zone and follow our truth, looking for our tribe and being able to bring our message into the world and get out of the system. And in order to do that, it was very difficult. There's always some limitation put upon us. I love this, because Brett, this means I would love to not have to do my private clients on my subcontracting website. I love the people that I meet there and I bring them into my private practice, but I don't want to have to spend hours a day on. I just want to write. I want to make content. I want to make my videos. I want to make a video show. I want to make my book. I want to keep creating content.
Because if your content is good enough to be put on a website like that, then somebody's going to come along, take your content off of Steam It, and then go build a website where they can put it on a website like that. So that's the ultimate goal here. Is
I actually get approached by someone who has a TV show on the 7th of August. Asking if I wanted to have my own TV show, and it's like a cable TV, like a very popular one.
And I'm like, doing all this, sister, was so that I can look. Yeah, well, my whole point in doing all this was so I can look people like that in the eye and say, I've replaced you with a $15 tablet. You know, like same thing, or the $15 an hour job was replaced by the tablet at McDonald's. I don't care if they have a big platform. I don't care if they have a big audience. I can I'll open source, folks. They're gone. Their empires are gone to me. Nobody holds any power over me, so I don't care if they have millions. The only person I'm going for that has a lot of people pull is Alex Jones right now, because of the 30 million crazy people that listen to him. You know,
because of what?
30 million crazy people that listen to him.
I haven't
because
about Alex.
No, yeah.
I'm angry at him because when my Kundalini fired, I've been listening to him for some time, and I actually called in on a show and I had a very valid question and I explained, and he basically gave me the runaround, kept me off air, never put me on, shut me down, and said that he couldn't help me. He was full of shit. I knew back then when he was just, that's back when he was just, he seemed like a crazy, angry Texan who just found out what was going on, but it was all an act. He's a freaking he's a psyop. There's no way he got into Bohemian Grove and got any of that, or got to ask Rockefeller or whoever it was on the side of the street, get that close, or even get into the freaking Bilderberger conference on the megaphone with all his people camped out. You know, that was such a staged event. Please.
See, but I'm a comedian and a comedia guy, you know, a comedian, and I know how to commingle with a guy like him. You know, regardless of what I think, it's like I couldn't commingle.
To have him on the show, actually. Let's get him on.
Well, I couldn't commingle with Mika Brzezinski. Let me ask you that. Do you think you could commingle with Mika Brzezinski?
I don't know who Mika Brzezinski is, but let me tell you, there's not anyone I've ever experienced that I can't commingle with. I walk with kings and paupers. I grew up in the I've partied with 40 princes of Saudi Arabia in Miami to, you know, no, I don't, and I'm always, ask Brett, I'm always me no matter who I'm around.
No, I know. Like that's why I knew that like you were the right kind of infiltrator for the New Earth project. You know, like I call it.
I had it at New Earth. I had my issues there. I went to go see if it was true, you know, and there was a lot of bullshit. And I got there and I met some wonderful people, but found there was a lot of bullshit. And a lot of people who were really valid were coming and going. At the same time, there's some really valid people that have been there since the beginning that aren't going anywhere, that I know had validity, then they were being able to shine through. And it's all shifting there. But I mean, it still had to come in through contrast. But
it's infiltration. It's infiltration because all the hierarchies have to go away.
I call out bullshit when I see it. I hold people accountable. That's what I tend to do. I ask questions that people don't like to have to answer.
And that default state, putting us in a state of like a default anarchy. And that's why I keep coming back to like this networking tool. This is my IT tool. And this is how I know somebody, rather than using email, this is how I'd rather talk to you, is write something really cryptic and strange and in an artsy way. And then you call me up and you're like, hey, what'd you mean by that? And I'm like, oh, I meant this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, I can see it now. And then, you know, it's written there and exposed in the open. Nice. There's no hierarchy. I'm not telling anybody what to do. It's just there. There's the information. You see what I mean? Yeah. That's the way I like the fractal in the Dan Winters.
I'm just going to turn my camera off for a minute. You guys, we've been going so long. I need to use the restroom. So, Brett.
Well, should we cut it off here? Or Brett, do you want to continue on and make some content?
I need a second right now, and then we'll do.
I was actually just thinking exactly the same thing because it's actually 1 o'clock here where I'm at.
Exactly. Okay, let me just run to the bathroom before we close, though, because you know I want to do the.
You got it.
Well, actually, while you go to the bathroom, name of that person you wanted to talk to, the Aussie guy you were looking for, so I can.
Tim Boaz.
That's what it was. I had him up before.
Is he wearing a cap? Handsome guy wearing a cap. Are you looking for him on Facebook or are you looking for him on Steven?
I Googled him, but let me. I don't like the Tom. I put Tom for some reason.
So if you want the link here, I'm gonna
Facebook.
I'm gonna do something.
I'll send the link first. Let me see if it's the right one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Frisian. She wrote that. Okay, excellent. Here's a link to the L.E.A.F. document from Steemit that was posted 3 months ago.
Cool.
I could show where I actually wrote that in 2011, but that document was posted to Steemit on 3 months ago. I love that. I love that aspect of it. You know, you can get something out there, and then you have this. Sister Lisa mentioned it. Providence. You know, it's providential. Or
what Boaz?
Sorry, it's 420 somewhere.
B-O-A. It is. I think it's B-O-A-S-E. Let me double check here real quick. While
you're finding that out, I'm just gonna pull this all back around. And of course, we didn't really get to talking too much about the L.E.A.F project, which is your thing, but actually we talked about what the content and why it exists. So it's not really important because we're not here so much to push your agenda as, you know, your agenda, your creation, your project has to do with, you know, creating sustainable solutions all over.
Yeah. And not doing it in a way that I'm actually planning. It's actually very chaotic the way I'm doing it. So you appreciate it.
Oh, I do. You're a dragon rider. Who doesn't love riding dragons?
Yeah, exactly. And so the moral of the story is use steam it, use steam it, use steam it. It's just one tool that's coming. Yeah. And there are others coming. So guys, I'm going to actually have to cut off here. I've got something I have to take care of myself that I'm realizing is something I have to help my neighbor with. So if,
no, I'm all ready to go. I just needed to go to the bathroom quickly because I didn't want to not end the way we do.
Excellent.
So what we usually do to end the show is we do a gratitude circle. I always start with the guest and then I go to Brett. And when you start, I'd just like you to tell everybody, which of course they're going to be able to find in the information to the links below, how to get a hold of you or anything that you, last words you'd like to do to have people follow you on stage. I know you have a group, frankly, you have a tag, Frankly Speaking, which wasn't brought up. So anything you'd like to say and what you're grateful for today there?
Well, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak with you guys. I find a lot of good use out of this type of brainstorming. So however you guys see fit to produce this content, I'm all behind it. But anybody that wants to continue following me or any of my work, it's all on Steemit, steemit.com/, and that's with 2 E's, steemit.com/@FrankBacon. So, and feel free to pass any of the links that I've spotted you. You guys can share that as well. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, and thank you.
Ah, a little ho'oponopono in the end. I freaking love you. For those who don't know, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, is a very ancient medicinal practice in the ancient heart of Hawaiian shamanism known as Huna. And it is a magical spell, and it is the spell for this year because it's all about forgiveness and letting go. So thank you so much, Frank. We'll definitely have you back. We can go, I mean, it's like 7, we can, you know, Santos, we could sit here for 24 hours a day if we really wanted to, but we need to have our own lives and do things in balance. So we'll see you next time. I love you, and I look forward to steaming. How do you call it? I'm a steam it person, I'm a steamier, I'm a steamy in. It's a steamy in, but when you're actually steaming, what is it called?
I call it steampunking.
Steampunking. Okay, I like that too.
But
because I was punk vunk when I was a kid. Funky, vunky, vunk, punk. Now I'm steampunk. I'll take that.
Wonderful. Love you guys.
Wonderful.
Take care.
And it looks like Brett already dropped off. Brett, did you go? You didn't get to say what you were grateful for. Well, I'll just say thank you for joining us here on Consciousness Caffeine Radio. I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for my dad, having been my dad in my life, even though he passed on my birthday. He couldn't have thought of a more amazing gift to give me to remember him. So, and I'm grateful for being my son's mom, which I always say, but peace, love, abundance, and joy, because I need to go to bed. Shine on, and I hope you enjoyed Consciousness Caffeine Radio. Bye.